And welcome into the Tuesday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Rexrode, what's going on? How are we doing? I notice every time that I open the show and I start yelling that you just have to turn that mic down. It's just a little too loud for Robby Stanley, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that's on me, though. I mean, I got to anticipate the booming Robby Stanley voice. But, yeah, so check the levels. You know, the levels are good. Both sides working.
That's good.
I got my 2012 Pub Crawl T-shirt on.
Nice. Very nice.
It's a 2012 Pub Crawl T-shirt of a 10th anniversary of the Pub Crawl.
Oh, so this is some deep-rooted history.
We're talking some serious pub crawling.
Absolutely. Here. Wow.
So I'm feeling good. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. This shirt's been through a lot, but, I mean, I think we'll get through the show.
Hopefully so. Ryan Porth, how we doing?
Doing fantastic
I bet you are doing fantastic this morning. Some big news last night in the Ryan Porth household. The Field of Dreams game that we've talked so much about here on the program will involve Porth's beloved Cincinnati Reds next year. The Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds playing at the Field of Dreams in Iowa. Porth, this feels like this is what dreams are made of for you. What a time it is.
Yes, it is.
Did you get a hotel room?
Yeah, have you got your tickets yet?
Well, we have a place to stay in the southern part of Iowa, which is like an hour from Dyersville.
Oh,
so
nice.
Just
an hour away.
Yeah.
What town is that?
Where my entire dad's side of the family's from?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, do you know where DeWitt, Iowa is? It's just north of Davenport.
Okay. I know where Davenport is.
So it's like, I don't know, 15 minutes north.
Okay.
And then Dyersville, the Field of Dreams website, the Field of Dreams.
There probably is.
I'm sure they do have a website.
Yeah, is like, I don't know, hour and a half north.
It's going to be
there.
It's going to be quite a big deal. Then.
I mean, he's got to be
there. We can count
right?
on you being gone. Then we can count on you being gone the week of August 11th.
Like, there has never been a sporting event that has come through that has been like, I have absolutely 100% have to be there, like it was last night.
Yeah. He'll be there.
Like, I have to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like, with my brother, with my dad, and with my uncle.
Yeah.
And my uncle's a big Cubs fan.
Oh, even better.
My uncle
even
Spice
better.
this thing up a little bit.
My uncle and my dad both grew up in Iowa on cornfields at a farm. Big baseball family. Like,
But your dad is a Reds fan.
oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
oh
And
yeah.
grew up? Did they grow up like Uncle Cubs fan, Dad Reds fan?
My dad did not grow up as a Reds fan. I think my dad grew up as a Cubs fan. And then once we moved to Cincinnati,
Gotcha.
Made the transition.
yeah.
That's okay. I like it. Yeah,
So,
you got to go, man.
A lot of deep roots on that game. So,
How many times in the next year do we think Porth utters the phrase baseball?
Baseball.
people will come, Ray. The Porths will come, Ray. The Porths will most definitely come.
We'll be in the building. Wonder if Kevin
That's
Costner
awesome.
be there next year with Porth. Be good stuff. Is this going to be an every year thing for Kevin Costner?
Sure.
Well,
I cannot wait to watch Joey Votto walk out of the cornfields into the outfield.
see, Kevin Costner goes the first one. Next year it'll probably be Timothy Busby, who well, I have to get some other guys for the movie.
Come on. And you can tell him all about how famous he is here on our show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll grab the mic in, the middle of the field and just go, Ray,
Yeah.
you're bankrupt.
Sell the farm, Ray.
Come on, Ray.
Oh, that's good stuff. It's a good time to be a Cincinnati Reds fan. They
Yes,
keep winning
it is.
games. Joey Votto, 2,000 hits last night.
Mm-hmm.
Not in last night's game, but overall in his career.
That would have been a record.
It would have been right.
I advise everyone to listen to Joey Votto's press conference. I caught it on Twitter. It's awesome. He talks about how his dog ate his first hit. He gave the ball to his dog.
Yeah.
His dog just
totally chewed that
destroyed
thing
it.
up.
But it's just what an interesting dude.
He's always interesting.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to listen to him talk.
A lot of talk about dogs the last couple of days here on the show.
Yep. Joey Votto's spitting one out after he chews up his ball, and Gussie's squeezing one out.
That's right.
Everything was fine last night, by the way.
That's good.
I need to talk about this stuff like at hours that my family isn't listening because I'm starting to become like, persona non grata at home. Pissing everybody off. So I'll just Keep it to myself. I need to come up with some Rex rants that aren't about my family.
Yes.
Like the last 5 Mondays at 7:45 have been about your family.
Well, I got something else to tell you guys.
Tell you what the kids did this week. Yeah. I'm trying to embarrass them, for their friends so that they'll be shamed into behaving better, but it's not working out.
It's not going so well.
Is it going the other direction on you?
Nah, it's not really getting worse.
Can it get worse?
Yeah, in some ways, but again, don't bait me into, everything's fine. I love my kids.
That's right.
And dogs, wife, house,
Neighborhood.
extended family, all the uncles on Facebook who say dumb crap, love them too.
Great city of Nolensville.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's right. Love all of Nolensville too.
That's right. Joe, how was Tennessee Titans practice last night at Nissan Stadium? The weather looked a little hairy there for a little while. Ended up holding off. Had a nice crowd out at Nissan Stadium last night.
Yeah, close to 7,000 there at the stadium. It was good. I mean, the kids were out, yelling at their favorite players. At first, I was a little concerned, because obviously everybody made a big deal, and Vrabel brought it up last week too. The practice he had in 2018 where they did situational stuff, and fans were like, "I want to see Derrick Henry carry the ball." All right, maybe at that time I was like, "I want to see Deion Lewis carry the ball." Whatever. Yeah. But so at first they did like some walkthrough stuff, and then they were doing kickoff, and I'm like, he's gonna let them see something, right? For a while I thought it was just gonna be stuff like that, like, oh gosh. But yeah, then they did full speed stuff, they did team stuff. AJ Brown's out there doing team stuff.
Yeah.
Bud Dupree, Taylor Lewan. So it was good. I mean, it was they put on a pretty good show for the fans. I mean, Derrick Henry was out there, like, he lined up the very first walkthrough play. They handed off to Derrick Henry, so they got to see Derrick Henry in uniform. Julio Jones comes out of the tunnel a few minutes into the practice, and he gets I'm like, why is everybody cheering? Oh, Julio Jones walking out of the tunnel. But there were some interesting sights out there. I mean, Josh Reynolds made some big plays. Chester Rogers made some big plays. Tannehill looked sharp. Laurel Murchison with a couple of PBUs at the line, one of which is picked off by Byard. Both of them Tannehill passes. So you saw a little bit, you saw a lot of the same guys in the same spots. Chris Jackson still holding down that slot corner with the ones. I mean, everybody's just assuming Chris Jackson is, just going to succumb to like Elijah Molden or whatever, but I don't know. He's gotten every rep that I've seen.
Don't underestimate Chris Jackson, and don't underestimate Logan Woodside. That's what we've learned so far through Titans training camp.
Yeah, but nobody talks about Chris Jackson.
I know.
Yeah. But, yeah, Logan Woodside looked good out there yesterday, so the fans got to see number 5 throw it around a little bit too. Elijah Molden was back out there. It was actually one of the best bits of news for them was probably that Christian Fulton was out there. He got beat by Josh Reynolds on the bomb from Tannehill, but actually it was pretty good coverage. That was a good speed versus speed matchup. But, I mean, the fact that he was out there after getting a little bit nicked up in Sunday's practice is good for them. Looks like Molden will be back soon, and, we'll see with Farley. He was out doing some stuff. Caleb Farley out doing some stuff. He doesn't look too far away. Bud Dupree's out there going full speed, nothing on his knees. I mean, he talked afterward. It's purely like, let's just be careful at this point with him. And Lewan, obviously, I mean, he was pass blocking, in shorts, but he was pass blocking. He's full go. So, I mean, the overall health trend is good. Sam Ficken gets to kick yesterday. Does well. He missed one.
He's 8 of 9. I think the one he missed was 48.
And we're, so,
Ficken was kicking.
Ficken was kicking again.
He was kicking, and then he made a longer one after that. But, I mean, he's obviously getting all the reps right now, and we'll see how long that is. But they are going to take everyone today to Florida. The whole crew, hurt, not, superstar, not, they're all going to go.
Well, if you just get Tucker McCann around Tom Brady, get healed up down there a little bit.
That's
so
true.
That
Can
Florida sunshine.
Just pour a little bit of water on that injury,
It's going to be amazing.
I mean, he's a busy guy. Like, you can't ask him to do it for everybody. But
is it water or is it avocado tequila?
Well, it could be a little bit of a mixture.
I thought he would drink Bartles and James wine coolers. Am I wrong?
Maybe so. Did you see the video yesterday of everybody praising Tom Brady for the fourth quarter of a preseason game? He's practicing his snaps on the sideline.
No.
That's what makes him great, man.
No, I did not see that. Looking forward to this week, though.
It's going to be great.
There was video of Dylan Raduns, the last guy on the field.
Yeah.
Last guy on the field, working on his pass set. So.
How did Des Fitzpatrick look yesterday? Obviously a lot of eyeballs on Des Fitzpatrick right now.
Yeah, there was one play, and I was sitting there with Ben Arthur from the Tennessean, and there was one play where, and I forget who was throwing the ball, but and I forget who got the pass breakup too, but it was one of those, he's just doing a crossing pattern, and it's a pass breakup, and he's kind of waiting for the ball, and like Ben's like right there, like you got to go get the ball, like do something. That's I was like, you know what, he should just like get an OPI, like show people you're pissed off, like
just shove people out of the way.
Like he's got a big body, he's athletic, he's just not being aggressive and just not making plays right now. So everybody else is though. Now Josh Reynolds is making plays, so here's another guy. I mean, we talked last week. Gosh, Reynolds hurt, whatever. We got all the clarity on that, but I mean, now if he's going to get past that, you can see the speed. I mean, he can run, and to have like a vertical guy like that who can make plays, and Marcus Johnson is another one of those guys to go with the big two. It's a pretty good combo. It's a little bit better than Khalif Raymond. Although I will continue to respect
You
Khalif
loved
Raymond.
Khalif Raymond after
Great
last year's
story.
camp.
Great story.
What depth Titans receiver do you have a closer bond to, Khalif Raymond or NWI?
Well, so NWI yesterday, makes a real nice catch on the sideline. Nick Westbrook-Akina, for all you fans out there who don't know.
Good job, Nick.
And so I'm standing with TD at this point on the sideline, and all the other idiots. Most of them are not idiots, but Kaharski's over there, whatever. I don't mean to single him out. Just saying, all the other media idiots are all over there behind the end zone, and they immediately look at me like, oh, I mean, it's like a thing. He makes a play now, and everyone was like, or if he drops a pass or whatever, basically, his agent, his
publicist.
Yeah.
Uncle.
Yeah.
President.
Uncle putting weird crap on Facebook.
President of the fan club.
Yeah, I guess. Because someone told me that they like him, and I was so stunned by what I heard, I wrote a story about it.
Well,
and they've also told me about Marcus Johnson, but no one else was talking about Marcus Johnson. Like, Marcus Johnson, no kidding.
Not to mention, looks like Nick Westbrook-Akina in a pretty good spot right now.
It looks that way. It looks that way.
Just saying.
But I can't wait to see who gets cut. I mean, it doesn't add up.
No, it does not add up at all.
I mean, there's something shocking is going to happen. What?
They're going to keep 8 wide receivers.
Yeah. Just go all receiver. I don't know. I think he is safe too, like Marcus Johnson, the way that they're being used, the way they're not being. But I just how do you cut a 4th-round pick?
I don't know. But doesn't it look like it's
possible,
more and more possible that happens?
Yeah, but then I just keep coming back to, man, they're not going to do that, right?
I don't know, man.
I don't either.
That's really tough decisions.
But Josh Reynolds, last week, Kaharski with the video,
Yep.
and we're watching he's not doing much. What's hurt? He told us what's hurt. He's had multiple injuries. But if he's going to look like he did yesterday moving forward, okay. Now it's between him and Marcus Johnson for the 3.
But he did say what was bothering him and what's been ailing him yesterday, and made me raise my eyebrows a little bit with concern. How concerned are we about Josh Reynolds as we move forward here? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
the Achilles in, or do you over a hump, or is it full go, or are you still having some?
Still kind of working through some stuff, but like I said, today I felt good. Today was, everything was kind of clicking with my body. I was kind of trying to figure out a routine to kind of get stuff figured out down there. As you get older, it gets a little harder to just go out there and run.
That was Titans wide receiver Josh Reynolds yesterday after practice at Nissan Stadium. Reynolds back on the field. Obviously has been dealing with an injury and then threw the word Achilles around yesterday, which, Joe Rexrode, that caused me to raise my eyebrows. Anytime you hear the word Achilles associated with somebody, that's tough. That could be a really, really bad injury, as we know. Now, obviously, it's not a torn Achilles or anything like that because he wouldn't be running around if it was. But I guess if you're a Titans fan, you hear that Josh Reynolds may have been battling through some Achilles stuff. How concerning is that? And does that maybe help explain the lack of production or lack of explosiveness that we've seen from Josh Reynolds so far in training camp?
Well, first of all, I like how he's talking about getting older and stuff, like 26. Yeah. And he's also like this big Whataburger guy. It's like, dude doesn't have like a ounce of fat on him. 26 years old. Getting older here, guys.
Well, 26 is when I started to feel it a little bit, yeah.
Were you a pro athlete?
No.
Because, when I was 26, I was
not
doing pro athlete stuff, But, that we were talking about that in the press room. It's like, a little bit of Achilles, kind of like, I got this broken back. And, but you can have an Achilles strain. I've had, like, Achilles pain before, which is not comforting.
No.
Like, you do not want to mess around with that. But, obviously if he's out there running around and doing everything, and again, he did look explosive yesterday. That looked like the really fast guy they thought they were getting when they signed him. So, yes, the word brings concern to mind. It's just one of those words. Back, Achilles, trying to think what other things were, obviously knee, but knee
less
stuff.
So now.
Yeah. Sometimes people have, like the foot stuff where you having a stress fracture after stress fracture, but
sciatica.
That's a sciatica can be very tough. Yes. But look, if he's working through it and gradually getting better, then that's good news. Apparently, I don't think they're going to let him go out there and do this stuff if there's a big concern. He also. I just asked him just to clarify because I knew it was something upper in the spring and that was coming off shoulder surgery. So he really wasn't hurt during the OTAs and stuff like that. They didn't really clear him because I remember he came back late, I think in the mini camp, and they looked good out there. So the Achilles happened during camp.
Yeah.
The Achilles, I guess strain would be the word.
Yeah.
Good thing for him and them that it wasn't a little bit more because obviously just any sort of tear of that thing and you're done for the year.
And you're talking about a guy that's been extremely durable so far through his career. He's played in 16 games every season that he's been in the league so far. So not missing a game to this point in his career, if you're Josh Reynolds, that's very good. Now, you would think coming into this situation, maybe a little bit more opportunity than he's gotten used to. Although I will say, 81 targets last year, 52 receptions. Do we think Josh Reynolds could have 81 targets this year? Probably not, would be my guess. It's a lot of throwing the ball with Julio Jones, A.J. Brown. You got Derrick Henry in the backfield. So maybe he's not going to get more targets this year. I think that may have been his thought process when he signed here, and he didn't know that Julio Jones was coming around the corner.
Right. It's a 1 year. Yeah, it's a 1 year kind of, prove it deal a little bit, and then you hope that then you make yourself more attractive and, maybe the cap situation's better, but it's interesting because I would say no, and not just because of those two guys, because again, I really think that he is in a competition with Marcus Johnson at this point. Marcus Johnson didn't do a lot yesterday. Chester Rogers was kind of the other. There was a beautiful Tannehill little drop over the top to Rogers, just beating Byard. Just a really fantastic one of those throw them open plays. But Marcus Johnson consistently day in, day out. I think he's making a bid to get some of those targets, to get some of those snaps. I mean, I don't think just because Josh Reynolds now is back and he's running back, all of a sudden, okay, well, here you go, Josh, you're in there. It's you three. No, he was signed, but again, he was signed for $1.7 million. It's not like it's some like, oh, you have to, like Bud Dupree, paying $16 million, that guy's got to play every snap.
Right.
I mean, it's not like that. I mean, Marcus Johnson is a legit contender to make plays for this team and matter. And I think Reynolds is too, and that's just going to be very interesting. So it all adds up to no. I don't think he's going to get 81 targets.
Well,
one way or the other.
But an impressive day, certainly an end to practice yesterday by Josh Reynolds. And Mike Vrabel, Titans head coach, discussed after practice Josh Reynolds, him coming back on the field, and just kind of what he's looking for out of Josh Reynolds as they continue on here. Here's what Mike Vrabel had to say yesterday regarding the new Titans wide receiver, Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, what I liked about Josh is I don't think he started out the practice very well, and then, he came back and made a huge play at the end. And we talked about, hey, listen, man, you dropped the pass, didn't convert a route or whatever it was early. But this is the first quarter of the game, and it was cool. It was cool to see him come back and hit that shot and hit that play, down the field. So, yeah, I mean, he's working hard, and I think that we'll see some good things from him this week in Tampa.
So that was Mike Vrabel yesterday after practice, and I am interested to see, not only with Reynolds, but the receiving core as a whole. You're going to get some good work in this week against Tampa Bay. What's this going to look like in terms of who's going to be out there, who's going to be available, how much action is A.J. Brown going to see this week in Tampa Bay? Is there any chance whatsoever that Julio Jones could see some work? He's not been on the field for team periods in a long time. At this point, is there any chance that he could be out there against Tampa Bay? It's going to be interesting to see, and as you pointed out earlier, Vrabel did say everybody going to be making the trip down to Tampa Bay with the Titans this week. So this could be a very interesting practice week for the Titans down against the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yep, 2 practices, and then they'll play. And Vrabel was asked about that, about Julio, and he was just like, I don't remember how he said it. Like, I don't want to predict that. I don't want to set – and he's big on that, not setting expectations when guys are hurt. Again, I don't think Julio is significantly hurt. He's walking around with nothing on any leg or anything, going on the exercise bike during practice. Pretty minor, whatever it is, but it's also they're not going to come close to risking it. Now, I do think at some point, per our conversation yesterday, it is important to get him out there with Tannehill. Is this the week going against other DBs from another team and stuff like that? Even just doing like individual and things like that, maybe. But I guess it's like I'll believe it when I see it when he comes back out there. By the way, Tennesseans got to change it. Their headline says Josh Reynolds is working through an ACL injury.
Oh. I don't think that's it.
Unless it's like Achilles something at CL injury. But no, that's not what it is.
Is the ACL connected to the Achilles at any point? I don't know.
I guess it's all connected, right?
I guess so. Goes back to the famous Barry Trotz on-the-body injury. His injury is on the body.
On the body.
Thank you, Barry.
That's outstanding.
We appreciate that. Going to have David Beauclair from SI.com coming up at 7 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans following their preseason win against Atlanta. Looking ahead to this weekend against Tampa Bay as well. That coming up at 7 o'clock here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Titans. Get a little bit deeper into Ryan Tannehill. How much pressure is on Ryan Tannehill this year with the weapons he now has on offense? Could Ryan Tannehill be facing more pressure than any other quarterback in the league? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5. The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. David Beauclair coming up at 7 o'clock, talking Titans. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans as they head down to Tampa Bay this week to take on the defending Super Bowl champions. And, Joe, I was thinking last night, I was kind of looking around the league, and obviously this time of year, a lot of conversation around the quarterbacks in the NFL and the quarterback battles in camp, and which quarterback has the most to prove this year heading into this NFL season. And, look, Tannehill's proven a lot already during his time with the Titans. He's been very good. We know that. We've talked extensively about that here on the show. But as you kind of look around the league and you forecast what this year could look like, the weapons, the plethora of weapons that Tannehill now has at his disposal. We've talked about how Tannehill could probably have the best year of his career statistically, and maybe still doesn't get the credit that he probably deserves at this point. How much pressure do you think is on Ryan Tannehill with the weapons that he has, the expectations that are on this team, and when you start to look around the rest of the league, is Ryan Tannehill up there in terms of the quarterbacks that are facing the most pressure heading into this season?
I would say yeah, but also I think it needs to be defined because I think the absolute cream of the crop in the league is always under – there's just the expectation that Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, I guess now are we going to put Josh Allen in there? I don't think he belongs in there, but I mean –
yeah, I'd hold off on that one.
Yeah, but like the top – those are just expected to be great. You know, they
Sure.
just have to carry their teams to be great, but they are, so until they aren't, they're probably fine.
Right.
I would say Tannehill, I think he is, if you're talking about pressure because there are a lot of questions, even though I think there's more questions for him than there should be, but I would put him right there. I mean, the other two quarterbacks who come to mind on that would be Lamar Jackson and Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
And those are the two, obviously Stafford is coming in, and I think he's got a chance to do great things there, but look, if they don't go to the Super Bowl or at least have a great year and have a playoff run, then who's going to get blamed? I mean, no one would ever blame Sean McVay for anything.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, Matthew Stafford stands to lose a lot in terms of, like his view around the league. And then, yeah, Lamar Jackson's constantly – I mean, I think until he takes that team to the Super Bowl, there's going to be that's great. He's a great player and piles up numbers, but can you win in the playoffs with that kind of offense, that kind of quarterback?
Well, I think there's different types of pressure, right? Because, I mean, there are some quarterbacks this year that I think are in danger of maybe losing their job and not being quarterbacks anymore if they don't perform. Like, Daniel Jones, I think, is under a lot of pressure with the New York Giants. He's the guy that they drafted to be their franchise quarterback. It's not really happened to the level that they've hoped for to this point.
And it happens.
He's under pressure, especially in that market, but it's a different kind of pressure. Like Ryan Tannehill is in no danger of losing his starting job this year.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So the guys like that, I guess you would have to put at the top, right? The guys who are in danger of losing their jobs, which is incredible how fast that happens now in the league. For the young, high pick. I mean, Tua. Everybody's looking at Tua now.
Yeah.
Is Tua the guy? And it wasn't that long ago. He might not. We just be finding out right now. Drew Lock.
Looked good the other day in preseason, though.
It's Lock and Bridgewater
That's right.
in a battle.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, Daniel Jones is a good one. I mean, that's a guy who trying to figure out if he's the guy. Trying to think if anybody else really fits that bill.
Cam Newton. I mean, not in the mold of Daniel Jones, but I mean, he's got a very short leash to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, everybody expects Cam Newton to lose his job by like week 3. You got to be perfect.
By week one. By week 1.
Well, Ryan Porth does say by week 1.
You called the shot that Mac Jones will start the season. Yeah, you're not going to be right. But it won't be long, probably. Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's under pressure. I mean, I think he's on the downside of his career.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
What would you put Aaron Rodgers
under
that umbrella?
I'd put him under the first thing I talked about, which is you're just expected to be an MVP level player.
And he's put a lot
week.
of that on himself with how he handled everything this offseason.
Well, this year it's Super Bowl or bust for him, right? Because nobody knows what's going to happen after this. Is he going to be the quarterback next year? Are they going to trade him? Is he going to retire? I mean, I think this almost feels like kind of a last dance, quote unquote, for them. So there is a pressure that comes along with that. Now, the flip side of that, to your point, is how much pressure is there really on guys like Mahomes and Rodgers and Brady when they're just consistently great all the time? Like, obviously, they can handle that.
And not to nitpick, but like Brady wasn't great his last year in New England.
Right.
But, I mean, I know no one wants to remember that, but yeah. But yes, in general, no doubt. That's the thing with Brady. I mean, at some point, in all seriousness with Brady, at some point it's going to be obvious that he's got to stop playing football.
It could be when he's 52.
It could be. No, he could absolutely be the next George Blanda. Another guy with pressure would be Jimmy G, for sure. You got the kid there who I don't think Trey Lance is going to really push him this year. I think he'd have to suck to have a real chance to lose his job. I think the plan is, like, take this year with Trey Lance. But you still have a high draft pick, and if you don't perform, regardless of what's happening inside the building, you know what's going to be happening outside the building. So you're trying to stave that off if you're him. And you're trying to prove that you are a viable starting quarterback in the NFL. Crazy for a guy who got you to within a play of winning it all 2 years ago, but also it was a play he missed.
Yeah. Well, and then, of course, there's Dak Prescott, too, right? Comes off the injury last year. He's already hurt again this year in training camp. There's just a natural pressure that comes with being the quarterback of that team anyway. But he just signed a contract. Like, he's got to be a guy that lives up to that money. But I say all this because I was looking around last night at quarterbacks, and I don't know that there's anybody else in the league that's quite like the situation that Tannehill is in, where the upside, at least from a national perspective, I don't think there's a ton of upside there, right? Like, if Dak Prescott plays great this year, he's going to get all the credit in the world. You know, if Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford, if they play great this year, they're going to get all the credit in the world. If Ryan Tannehill plays great this year, here locally, he'll get credit. I mean, we know what Ryan Tannehill is and has been for the Titans. But nationally, like, I can't think of too many other guys where they could go out there and just play lights out this year, and everybody's going to look at three other guys before they look at the quarterback. I think he's in a very unique spot that way. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I do think, again, of Lamar Jackson, like, if he has this great year and everything. 2 years ago, they just took the NFL by storm. He was the MVP, and then, the Titans, to a lot of people, exposed what they do. So I could, like Lamar Jackson could have an incredible year this year, and it's still going to be like, yeah, okay, let's see it in the playoffs. I mean, you're one of those people, Porth.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
100%.
There's a lot of people who feel that way. So it's a different kind of, no matter what you do, there's questions, but that's what comes to mind. I think those two guys are a little bit unique in that way.
Have you all mentioned Kirk Cousins?
But that's a good one. I mean,
he doesn't have the quarterback in waiting behind him, but I would say
they drafted Kellen Mond. Okay. I mean, did they not?
I mean, yeah, but
okay.
Do we really consider Kellen Mond the quarterback in waiting?
There's some Vikings fans who do.
Well,
okay.
I mean, look, Kellen Mond's a good college quarterback. I don't know that I would necessarily predict that he would be a starting NFL quarterback.
But if the Vikings bottom out, he's done there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they'll go out in the first round next year and draft who they think is going to be his replacement.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're going to be good. That's what's interesting too. I think their defense is going to be better this year.
There's a lot,
but there is definitely. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him. There's no doubt.
But I
absolutely agree.
There's also been some turmoil up there around that team already this season.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're really going to be a playoff team this year.
Well, if they're not, then he's got to at least get them to the playoffs. I think they're probably like a 10-7-ish, 11-6 playoff team. But yeah, I mean, if not, then this might be close to the end for Cousins as a starter. And again, he's been good. He just hasn't been up to his contract good.
He is what he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a guy. I mean, to me, he's Jared Goff. He's good conditions. He'll be accurate all day for you. He'll throw for 350. He's won a playoff game on the road. And Goff has had some big wins too, but any sort of pocket chaos and it's not good.
Well,
they can't extend plays. They can't freelance like you need to in this league to be great.
Well, it's interesting with him too. I mean, he's got similar to the Titans, but not quite to the same degree. A lot of weapons at his disposal as well. I mean, you've got Thielen, you've got Justin Jefferson, and you've got Dalvin Cook. I mean, those are three pretty good weapons that you've got offensively, and their offense outside of Dalvin Cook last year sucked. I mean, it was not good.
When you have a bad offensive line, all that stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Jefferson was pretty good as a rookie.
Jefferson was great, but like their offense as a
Just
whole
ask Malcolm
was not
Butler.
good. So, yeah, it's
I mean, if you can't block, and that's the problem, is like he's not the quarterback you want behind a questionable offensive line.
yeah, he's not running for his life anywhere.
Right.
He's
But he's a good
turtling
one.
up.
I mean, Sam Darnold is trying to stay in the league,
Yeah.
trying to show he's a starter. He's already been bounced by the Jets. I mean, if you want to talk about rookies with pressure because they just did that, even though I know they're the Jets, Zach Wilson, like Justin Fields can come in at some point this year and he can be up and down and be a rookie and everybody's going to be like, Justin Fields, greatest quarterback ever,
Including you.
well, if he
And
completes
Trevor Lawrence, like he plays for the Jags, so yes, Justin Fields is going to be great.
Well, if Justin Fields completes a forward pass, he's already in the conversation for the greatest Chicago Bears quarterback of all time.
Yeah, exactly. And Trevor Lawrence, it's just the Jags, and when he'll make some plays, he'll be great. But like Zach Wilson, I feel like, even though they're the Jets, I feel like there's a lot of like, okay, everybody made such a big fuss out of Zach Wilson. You're supposed to be better than Justin Fields, which I don't believe he will be in the long run. So show us something, kid.
Well, that comes from playing in New York.
Also, you have top 100 player Corey Davis catching your
at your
passes.
disposal.
So
Yeah.
by golly, you better have a big
By the
year.
way, the more I thought about it yesterday, how in the world is Corey? How are there only 7 players in the NFL better? How should I phrase this? How are there only 7 players splitting between Ryan Tannehill and Corey Davis? Words are hard.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like Tannehill at 83, Corey Davis at 91. How are there 7 players separating those two in the NFL in the mind of the players? It makes no sense.
I mean, Corey
Tannehill
Davis.
disrespect.
I mean, Corey. I'll tell you this though, and this is one of Robbie's big favorite things. Bet you a lot of those guys got blocked by Corey Davis, huh?
Buddy. Yes, sir.
A blocking receiver. We should not underrate this. This has to be the key to him being in the top 100. Hell of a blocker.
He's a great blocker. He really is.
It's football. It's blocking. It's tackling.
It's catching. It's throwing.
Sure, that's part of it. But if you don't block and tackle, you won't win.
You're correct.
When
That
are
is
they
how-
coming out with the rest of that list?
I don't know. I thought it was going to be yesterday.
Yeah,
but
why
it was
wouldn't?
not.
Why wasn't it yesterday?
I don't know. Just take a couple days
It's
off,
just
I guess.
stupid all around. How much stupid can we have with this list?
Apparently, at least a little bit more. We're excited about the rest of that list coming out. We'll continue this discussion when we come back. Got some of your thoughts to get to as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. How much pressure is Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill under this season? We'll get to more of that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We'll be joined by David Beauclair from SI.com here in just a few minutes. Turned on the Twitch stream, and there was a nice little shot of Rexrode zipping up his jacket. Good stuff.
Could have gone a lot of ways. Rexrode zipping up his jacket.
Yeah, it was the jacket. No worries.
Glad it wasn't your pants.
All good. Yeah, me too. Thanks, Port.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's what we were thinking right
There you
there. Yeah. Talking Titans and Ryan Tannehill. How much pressure is Ryan Tannehill under? Could he be under the most pressure of any other quarterback this season? Taking your thoughts on our text line. Max in Kentucky texting in. What about Jared Goff trying to prove he's more than just the bridge during a rebuild? How about Jared Goff coming into that mighty situation in Detroit saying, you know
mighty
what?
Team that will not yield.
I am more than just a bridge quarterback. I am the future face of the franchise for the Detroit Lions. What do you think of that?
He plays for the Lions. I mean, will anyone even know that he plays football this year? No, I wouldn't put him high on the pressure list. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, just because Dan Campbell's going to have just an amazing year of
it's must-watch football, I think, this year with the Lions.
Apparently, Dan Campbell screwed something up with the clock, and they lost 16-15 to Buffalo.
You know, I'm shocked by that.
Preseason.
Wouldn't have never saw that coming.
The cappuccino ran out on him, man. But yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, I look at Goff as I mean, anybody who's a starting quarterback in this league is.
You're under some degree of pressure.
Yeah, there's some degree of pressure, but honestly, I mean, Jared Goff can be okay, and they can go 4-13, and okay. Yeah, you know, I mean, they are already. I would think approaching it like he is a bridge quarterback, right?
And you could have had Justin Fields.
Good Lord, Lions. Man.
He's right there.
Let the Bears have him.
Then he goes in the division. Good stuff from the Lions. JP from Spring Hill texting in. Of course, Tannehill's under the most pressure after how he played against the Ravens in the playoffs last year. Can he have big games in the playoffs? As far as Titans players under the most pressure, a question, what other players do you think are under a lot of pressure from the Titans this year? This coming from JP in Spring Hill.
Well, first of all, this will never, ever. I mean, we need to fast forward to the next playoff game because, again, with Tannehill.
Well, it's going to require him throwing for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Look, it is totally fair after he wasn't good enough in that game.
No.
And he could have won that game. Now, it didn't help him that, again, he's having to throw to Khalif Raymond in huge situations, but he also missed A.J. Brown. He wasn't good enough. If you're going to play box score crap with his 2 playoff wins, then you're just, again, we go back and watch the games. He was good in those games. He was a winning playoff quarterback in those games. He didn't have huge numbers. Fine. Okay. End that discussion. As far as the Titans under pressure, I mean, Bud Dupree comes to mind for sure. Well, I mean, Julio Jones comes to mind, and health is really the story there. Is he still Julio Jones? Can he be healthy? If he is healthy, is he Julio Jones? Just keep going in a circle.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Kevin Byard, I think, would be on the very short list of guys. He's got to be I mean, Kevin Byard, I don't think is going to be in the top 100. So Kevin Byard's got no shortage of all of a sudden everybody's out on you after one not great year. But he's paid to be great. So can he be great again?
Well, to that point, Taylor Lewan. I mean, you're coming back from injury, and we've talked about it. Like, if you're John Robinson and the Titans, you've got some cap decisions to make as you come up here. I think this is a big year for Taylor Lewan, not only to come back to get healthy, but to prove that once you are healthy, you're still the same guy. You're still the same player. But really, outside of those 3 offensively, like I don't think there's a ton of guys under pressure. Like, is A.J. Brown really under pressure? He's been great first couple of years. Is Derrick Henry really under pressure? He's been great.
I mean, Rashaan Evans is under pressure.
Yeah.
He's under pressure for his future in the league, not just like around here. Can he be – I mean, he's going to be in the league, but his next contract, I think, could be a pretty wide range of things depending on how this year goes.
I feel like Bud Dupree is on a tier of his own in terms of pressure because of how much we've talked about the stupid pass rush for the last 5 years.
Well, and how
or
much he's
10
getting
years.
paid, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. But Byard is – see, the thing is, I agree with you on Lewan, but I just watching Lewan, I think if he's healthy, he's going to be good.
Yeah.
And frankly, that job is – I mean, really, if you think about it, like it's actually a more simple job than like what Byard is doing. I mean, block your guy. Obviously, there's a lot of things you have to deal with, communication on the offensive line, but he's really good at that. It's the same thing over and over. You know, with Byard at safety, I mean, you're a split second late on stuff, you know, and you've got a lot of things you're kind of trying to control the whole defense while making plays and making huge plays. It's not as you know, it's a situation. There's a few moments every game where, you know, you're really good or not, and it could win or lose a game. Lewan is snap after snap. I just feel like it's harder to be like, I'm going to bounce back and be great at safety this year, because you're more dependent on others there than, like, to me, at like left tackle if you're really good.
Yeah. I mean, the left tackle, a lot of times it's, can you block your guy? That's what it is.
Yep. And I mean,
block your guy long enough.
Right. And of course, coming off the ACL, we don't know, but I mean, he looks to me just like Taylor Lewan right now.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says Dez Fitzpatrick is under a huge amount of pressure right now.
We don't know if he's on the team this year, so I wouldn't put him in the list. I mean, is he on this team? Is he on a team, on this team, on a practice squad? I think if the Titans could have one exemption for the practice squad where you don't have to expose someone on waivers, they would do it right now with Dez Fitzpatrick and say, you know what, really like him. You know, Jared called us yesterday, but he went on a show to, you know, he has people in Louisville, and there's a lot of optimism about Dez Fitzpatrick because of who he is as a person. Now, you could look at that both ways. Had an interesting discussion at the practice yesterday. You know, on the one hand, okay, that's what you want. You want someone who, like, you know is going to work hard and has the right attitude. And, again, Dez Fitzpatrick, talking to him, he loves football. He's a football guy, and that does matter. But at the same time, it's like you could flip that around and say, well, if that's true and that's still what he's doing out there, then does he have any chance?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very early for me to say anyone who's a rookie in this league has no chance. That's extreme, but it's a really interesting question with him. It's a very important. So the pressure on him now, I agree, is huge, is high. But I mean, if he makes the team, you're still never going to see him. He's going to be on special teams. Like, the pressure to, like, cover a kick well. It's a little different than, like, you know, Byard and Tannehill and Bud Dupree.
3rd and 5. Need a first down, yeah.
Right.
A little bit different on that thing. Well, to that point, you know, there's a lot of reaction to Dez Fitzpatrick yesterday. Is he going to be cut? Will the Titans really move on from a 4th-round pick? I don't know that we're at that point yet, but we're not far away. Like, it's time for him to pick it up. And if he doesn't pick it up, that goes back to the discussion we had yesterday. Like, are you really keeping him around on your roster to then maybe not even be used? Like, are you just going to keep a guy on your active roster that you don't feel like can help you right now with this team in this window that they have to win now? We've talked about what the Titans feel like they are. With the Julio Jones acquisition, that tells me they think they're a Super Bowl contender. Are you really keeping a guy that at this moment can't really help you on your active roster?
Well, but now to be fair, they're going to keep Monty Rice this year. He's not. What's he going to do? Monty Rice is only helping you if someone gets hurt. Monty Rice is here and was drafted because next year he probably has a key role, right? But
how many of those guys are you keeping?
Well, right. You can't keep a lot, but that does happen, I think, with every team. You got some rookies who you invest in and say, well, maybe this year you're not getting a lot, but down the road you will. So it comes down to, do they believe that that's in Dez Fitzpatrick? Or at some point, do they see enough where they're like, we missed on this one?
If they stash him on IR, can he practice?
I don't think so, but I'll check on that. That'd be quite a sweet
it would make
deal.
a whole lot
Just
of
put
sense.
everybody on IR.
Yeah.
That's our own little fake practice squad. I mean, I don't think so.
Okay. That's what I was assuming. Because everybody's saying, well, why don't we just stash him on IR? But how much is he really going to accomplish if he's just sitting on IR?
Right. He's going to local high school running routes.
Sure.
Yeah, Tannehill has free time.
He
Go
does.
over there and
Yeah,
throw
just
around
get
with
over there
him.
and start chucking the ball around on your off days to Des Fitzpatrick.
You can go wherever Zach Mettenberger is and play catch with him.
That's true.
There you
The
go.
Met Show. Bring him back. Why not? When we come back, we'll be joined by David Beauclair from SI.com. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans as they head down to Tampa Bay this week to take on the defending Super Bowl champions. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, talking Titans. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend David Beauclair from SI.com. David, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
I'm good, boys. How are you today?
We're doing great. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, David. Let's start with the preseason game on Friday for the Titans against the Falcons. What were a couple of takeaways that you had from that game? Who stood out to you the most in the game for the Titans against the Falcons this past Friday?
One of the big things for me was the secondary. There was one interception, nearly a second, which is it's one of those things we've seen on the practice field that showed up in the game. That sort of playmaking, that aggressive attitude. We've talked about it a little bit. I think everybody in the organization had to be really encouraged by that, because that has sort of been a constant. Mason Kinsey was a guy I think a lot of us really wanted to see. There's never been any question about Mason Kinsey's speed, but coming out of a D3 college, the question is, can he use that speed to get open against NFL receivers and make plays? And the guy had 4 targets, caught 4 passes for 51 yards. One was on a 4th down catch. He caught passes from both quarterbacks. He did himself some favors. He's still not likely to make the 53, but he's I'm thinking he's a guy that a lot of other teams are probably keeping an eye on too, and as I say, he did himself some favors there, and I think I'm trying to think who else stood out. David Long's a guy who's really fascinating to me too. The interception that he did make, getting deep into coverage, into zone coverage there. Long's a guy who probably went into the offseason thinking he was a starter for this team, and then Jayon Brown surprisingly re-signs, and Long could have pouted a little bit, I think, and kind of been disappointed about his situation. But I've asked him about it. He said the right things, and he's sort of done all the right things in practice and in the game the other night, where he's just showing up and playing, and he's probably going to make more plays this year now.
Yeah, do you think that it could, by the way, with Long, like could they go with Long and Brown? Do you think that could work?
I think it could work. That we've talked, or they've talked to Joe for years here about doing some different things with Rashaan Evans and maybe putting him at a defensive end spot in certain situations, or maybe he did rush the passer some when he was at Alabama. I think that David Long's very much in a situation where they're going to look at him and say, he needs to be on the field. We can trust him. We can do some things with him. What does that allow us to do elsewhere? And either Rashaan Evans becomes just a situational guy, or they find some different things to do with Rashaan then too.
Well, you mentioned Mason Kinsey, David. I've got to know your receiver room right now. Right now, at this moment, what's your receiver room on the 53?
Well, as I look at it, I'm trying to get in John Robinson's head here. Obviously you have Julio Jones and you have A.J. Brown, and you almost certainly have Josh Reynolds. But at this point, I can't say that Josh Reynolds is an absolute lock either. But we'll go ahead and put him on there, just because you spent that money on him. You're expecting him to be a part of this team, and then from there, I sort of look at it. You've got to sort of pair people up and start whittling this thing down. For example, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Racey McMath are pretty much the same guy to me. So I'm gonna match those two up and say I'm gonna keep one of those, and that's a no contest for me. And Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, he doesn't get talked about a lot, but he's a guy who just kind of keeps showing up and doing all the right things, and does a lot on special teams. So I'm keeping Ikhine. I think Chester Rogers and Cam Batson are pretty much the same guy. So at this point, I'm keeping Chester Rogers over Cam Batson as my primary return guy and maybe the best slot option. I don't think there's any question Marcus Johnson is in position to make this roster. So now you're at 6 right there, and the question is, can you find room for a 7th, and who is it? Des Fitzpatrick has made headlines this week for the wrong reasons, but it doesn't change the fact that they moved up 17 spots in the draft to get him. So do you roll the dice and think he's going to figure it out at some point? Do you go with a guy like Kinsey, who you think probably has a has just tremendous room to grow still, or can you not keep 7 at all? Is 7 too big a number? Or do you circle back and say, well, McMath and all the things he can do on the special teams, we'll keep him as a special teams guy and let him grow into being a wide receiver. It's a really really complicated puzzle right now. But like to me, Fred Brown is out. I think Cameron Batson is out right now. I think probably McMath is out right now, and I think Fitzpatrick is out right now.
David Beauclair from SI.com on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, David, let's kind of drill down on that a little bit more. So you think the Titans at this point, they're willing to move on from a guy they traded up to get in the draft in the 4th round in Des Fitzpatrick? As you said, he's making headlines this week for the wrong reasons. Do you think when push comes to shove, John Robinson, Mike Vrabel and company are willing to do that and willing to expose him to not make this team this early?
I think they're willing to do it. John Robinson has been willing to admit mistakes in terms of his some of the roster moves he's made. I don't think they're willing to admit that mistake that's a mistake right now. The thing with wide receivers right now too is there's so many coming into the league right now, and if you still like Fitzpatrick, I think there's a decent shot you could get him through to the practice squad if you decide that's what you want to do. But you look at what this team has done in adding Julio Jones and spending big money to get Bud Dupree and things like that. I mean, there is this isn't a thing. Well, a year or two from now, maybe we can make something happen. I mean, they're trying to win right now, and you've got this group of proven veteran wide receivers, and that includes Chester Rogers and Marcus Johnson, and they're guys who, in Rogers' case, was around all year last year. In Johnson's case, he was around for the last part of the year. They started the off season with some familiarity with this team and what have you, and they haven't done anything to disappoint at all, I don't think, this offseason. And you look at what Rodgers did in the punt return game last night. I mean, he already has more punt return yards in this preseason than any Titans player has had in a preseason since Darius Raynaud in 2012.
Wow.
I mean, that was a significant performance the other night as a return man.
So I thought we were maybe seeing a kid come into his own a little bit with Tucker McCann Friday in Atlanta, David. And again, he's been very good actually since Sam Ficken arrived. And Ficken's been good too, but do you have any different view on that? And I guess how problematic could this be, this injury for McCann?
It is problematic in that when you look at the roster and how how top heavy it is from a salary and a salary cap standpoint, you want to be able to go cheap at certain places, and that's where like a guy like Pierre Tart is so important right now, because he looks like he's going to be your starting nose tackle and not just a body in there, but a guy who can make some plays, and he's doing it on the second year of a rookie contract. Nate Davis at right guard, who played every single snap on offense last year, is just in the third year of a rookie contract. A.J. Brown, a Pro Bowl wide receiver, in the third year of a rookie contract. Jeff Simmons, a guy like you've got to have these guys who are playing well above what they're earning, and Tucker McCann, I think, is what they want in that position too. They want to be able to go cheap at kicker if they can do it. And he's a guy who was here all last season on the practice squad. They've invested time and energy in him. They obviously think he can do the job, and for him to get hurt in one of those deals, it certainly wasn't his fault. And as you said, Joe, he's been a much better kicker since Sam Ficken arrived. That move really caught his attention, obviously, and we'll see. But Ficken's a veteran guy who would command a little more money, and certainly has been very good. I think they finally feel confident that they're going to have their kicker on week one as they continue to sort through this. But I still think they would rather it be McCann if at all possible.
David, last thing for you here. If you're Mike Vrabel, how do you handle the last couple of preseason games here? Should starters see significant playing time in either one of these games? How you go about handling that if you're Mike Vrabel and the Titans?
Yeah, it's a good question because Mike Vrabel seems to think that a lot of these guys don't need much work, if any. I'm doubting we're going to see Derrick Henry at all in the preseason. I'm guessing we'll see Tannehill maybe get maybe like a quarter and a half maybe with most of the first team offense at one point. But I don't feel like he's gonna do one of those deals where, okay, we're gonna play the starters, we're gonna take them through halftime and do all that. The old school thing where it's good to let these guys go through the process of halftime and all that stuff and bring them back out for another series in the third. I'm guessing we're not going to see anything like that at all with this bunch. I think it's going to be more about sorting through some of these battles, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's the defensive line, trying to sort out what, if anything, you have at tight end. The safety's gotten a little more interesting the last couple of days when you've added, you've got 3 veteran safeties all of a sudden brought in here in the last 5 days in Thompson and Geathers and McDougald, and they've got to figure out what they have with those guys. So I think that's what the preseason games are still going to be mostly about for this team.
David Beauclair from SI.com has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Does a great job covering the Tennessee Titans. David, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning.
Oh, it's my pleasure, boys. You guys have a good one.
You as well.
Too,
David Beauclair from SI.com, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll come back. We'll react to what David had to say there. Take your thoughts as well on the Titans on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks to David Beauclair from SI.com for joining us in the last segment, offering his thoughts on the Tennessee Titans. Joe, it's interesting, and David, listed off his wide receiver room there. I think the way he approached it is pretty interesting, starting to pair guys up and say, all right, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Racing McMath, maybe similar skill sets they bring to the table. Who do you like better? Who do you choose in that setting? What do you think of the way that David laid out his wide receiver room right there? And do you buy what he threw out there that John Robinson, Mike Vrabel, willing at this point maybe to admit a mistake this early on with Des Fitzpatrick if it comes down to that and there's not noticeable improvement on his part?
Well, look, for all the pressure and complaining about the last draft class and, Clowney, Beasley, whatever, John Robinson's in a very secure spot. And I think John Robinson, more than probably a lot of GMs in this league, would be willing to do that. It's like, what makes this team better? I mean, it's a 4th-round pick. They moved on from DeAndre Walker, who was he a 5th-round pick? Maybe he was a 6th-round pick. I don't remember. But,
It was 5th round.
It was 5th round. I mean, basically like in the first right? It was just like, nah, okay, just not what we thought he was. So I think it's possible. I still also think, look, I think Des Fitzpatrick could be good. That's the thing. I mean, we can't sit here after a couple weeks and say he has no chance in this league. I mean, it's just so early to try to say something like that. But to Beauclair's point, they are going for it. And what's your best roster? Do you not feel like you need, the best possible 6 or 7 receivers? Because you have to count on everybody getting hurt in this league, and you have to have good 2s. So I think it's possible. I mean, look, again, it's a very important time for Des Fitzpatrick, and he could complicate things further. And I like how Beauclair went through it. I think he's right. Batson and Rodgers, they've both been working at punt return. Rodgers has just flat out been better.
Yep.
And I think he's right on the Westbrook-Akina and McMath comparison. Now, the one thing there is I still also think with Racing McMath, you could say, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of hyperbole now, and especially looks that way now when you think about what A.J. Brown's saying. But look, the guy is huge and fast and physical and could be really something. So do you, is that one where you're like, well, you got to take a flyer on someone who, in a couple of years, who knows what he could be. And I think a lot of that is, what is he going to do for you this year in the kicking game? And I will say he was a gunner all night Friday, and it wasn't a great debut in that way for him. I'm going to be really interested Saturday to see who they have doing that. I imagine he'll get another run at it. But I think, I can't discount him either. I'm kind of discounting Kinsey, but if you don't, then we're talking about 9 or 10 legit contenders to be in that room.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Heidi from Dixon texting in. Using what we learned so far this offseason, rank our best drafted rookies going into the next preseason game, and then rank them again for the biggest impact this season.
So much ranking you're asking for, Heidi. My goodness. I feel like I need a pedicure before I do all these rankings.
Well, if we're ranking the best drafted rookies going into the next preseason game, it would be difficult, I think, to leave Rashad Weaver out of the top spot after last week, would be my guess.
Yes.
Now,
so that
doesn't necessarily mean he has the biggest impact this year, but so far, based on what we've seen, Caleb Farley's not gotten in a game. Dylan Radunz has gotten better over the last week or so, but Rashad Weaver was really the story coming out of Friday night. At least I thought.
No question. He is right now because of that performance. Really, and just because of it's not like Rashad Weaver's been lighting it up in camp. Oh man, Rashad Weaver. You've seen flashes. You've actually seen him take it to Dylan Radunz a few times. But it's not like he's been amazing all camp. He's been kind of a rookie swimming, trying to figure it out. Boom, he comes out in a football game and just asserts himself physically. And, I think that's easily number one because of what he did Friday. And then I I mean, and you're going to go next to Dylan Radins.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, look, he had a nice debut too. He helped himself. He did well. I mean, after that, Monty Rice ran around and played a lot, and he was okay. I thought he made a few plays.
Brady Breeze got hurt.
I'd still put Racey McMath as a guy who has definitely demonstrated some potential. I mean, let's not totally abandon the guy. I mean, he's still an interesting prospect. And then, like you said, I mean, Farley hasn't done anything. Farley, in what he's doing, looks the part. Elijah Molden has been pretty good, basically trying to work his way, trying to challenge Chris Jackson at the slot. And then, Breeze, just not much from him. And now he's hurt, and they keep bringing in safeties.
Yeah, but Breeze is not going to make the team.
I would not expect that, and especially I don't know the extent of his injury. But I mean, you bring in, and Bo Claire said 3. Actually, they've signed 4 safeties in the last week. So now I think you also look at Dane Cruikshank, guy who keeps getting hurt and has just had injury after injury in his career, and it looks like they're just trying to find another depth safety to probably go with Matthias Farley. But who knows? Maybe even trying to see if they can do better than him.
Well, and to Heidi's point about ranking them for the biggest impact this season, I mean, you're hoping that Caleb Farley is number 1 on that list, right? I mean, he seems to be on track to be available early for the Titans. I don't know how much work he's going to get in the preseason, but I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable at this point to expect him to be available pretty early on for the Titans, whether that's week 1, week 2, whenever that would be for Caleb Farley. I mean, you're hoping that your first-round pick is the one that has the biggest impact for you. And to your point, I think physically you like some of the things that you see. Dylan Radins has gotten better. But outside of those 2 guys, I mean, Elijah Molden could end up playing a role in the slot as they move forward here. But outside of those 2 guys, barring injury, there's not going to be a ton of guys that get their opportunities this year. Like Monty Rice, probably not going to play a ton this year unless some injuries take place. So You're hoping it's Caleb Farley that makes the biggest impact.
If it's Caleb Farley, that's great news for the Titans. It means he's all good to go, and it means he's able to play all year. And look, I think he's got the ability to be a difference maker as a rookie. And then I think the other 2, there's 3 other rookies I think could definitely really make an impact. One would be Molden. I mean, I think Molden could still be the slot guy for this team. Now, what's interesting is you look at the domino effect of if Farley is good to go, what does this mean with Christian Fulton? Does Christian Fulton bump inside, and is that their best 3? Or do they rotate outside and Elijah Molden? I mean, I look at Elijah Molden right now, I guess I'd be a little bit surprised, especially now that he's gotten banged up and he's missing some stuff. If he comes right in and he's just like their slot guy. But, I think he has a chance to make an impact. Dylan Radins has a chance to make an impact. I am not ruling him out after Friday. I'm not ruling him out from the right tackle competition. And, as we talk about Dylan Radins, let's acknowledge how different that conversation is from a week ago. Yep. He was Des Fitzpatrick of a week ago.
Right.
Like, what's up with this guy? 2nd-round pick, getting, torched in practice. And
they can change in a hurry.
Yes. So, and that's what Des Fitzpatrick needs to be next week's Dylan Radins. And then Rashad Weaver. I mean, Rashad Weaver, I think Bud Dupree's going to be good to go. And we know Harold Landry's going to be on that field.
Yes, we do.
58, 48 going to be out there. But I think Rashad Weaver, and, you did see him a little bit hand on the ground, too, Friday. I think one way or the other, he's definitely a guy who's going to have a chance to make an impact with this defense.
Ben texting in, I hope Titans fans aren't getting their hopes too high with Rashad Weaver, considering the off-the-field issues he still has to answer for.
No doubt. I mean, look, I think, it's speculation. But if you look at the case, in a lot of situations, something like this results in a plea deal and not jail time, and it's similar charges. Now, the NFL can still, weigh in on that too. So, yep. I mean, his availability could be impacted. I would not think it would be long-term, big volume impacted. But it's also, it's also still something that's going to be hanging over him, and it's going to be something that people are not going to forget. And if it's never addressed or just completely debunked, which it probably won't be because these things usually aren't, that's always going to be there with him.
When we come back, we'll get a little bit more into the Titans and how Mike Vrabel and this staff should handle their starters as they move through the rest of the preseason here beginning this week against Tampa Bay. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game is bringing you Nashville's best coverage of training camp, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans, Frontier Basement Systems, the All Things Basement Company, the Trenches Shop Gallery and Boutique, and the Cut Truck Mobile, Nashville's newest barbershop on wheels. You have control of the time and place. Book your appointment at thecuttruckmobile.org. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Going to be joined to begin the 8 o'clock hour by Trey Wallace from Rocky Top Insider. So we'll get into the latest on the Tennessee Volunteers and fall camp with Trey coming up at 8 o'clock. Looking forward to that. Right now, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Ron texting in past preseasons, our starters would play a few series or quarters. Don't you think we need to play most of our starters this week? In your opinion, do you think that teams would get more out of their young rookies and draft picks by having more team-on-team practice-type scrimmages? That way teams can coordinate together on what they want to see in their players. So it's an interesting week down there. You got Tampa Bay. You got the Titans. It's going to be a very competitive next couple of days of practice for the Titans, starting tomorrow and Thursday as they practice down there. I would expect, and I think this is going to happen from the Bucs standpoint, they're going to play a lot this week in terms of the drills against the Titans. The actual game itself coming up this weekend, probably not going to see a whole lot from the Bucs and their starters, would be my guess.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, if Bruce Arians has said now that he's not going to play his starters in this one, he's going to play his starters in the last preseason game, which we talked about yesterday. Does that make more sense now because of the extra time? Because basically you don't have that. You have a huge gap between the last preseason game now and the opener that you didn't have before. That's just, they just took out the last week of preseason games.
Didn't fill it with anything. Just there.
Right.
Practice.
It's just there. So Arians is looking at like, you know what, we're going to have as much of a dress rehearsal as we can in the third, like in the past, and it'll be the same time frame before the opener. So one thing that does is maybe brings hope for Titans fans who are going to the Titans-Bears game on August 28th, because maybe Vrabel thinks of it the same way. Now, Vrabel also hasn't been much of a dress rehearsal, play the main players guy anyway, so I don't know. But I would think this week that if Arians is not going to play his starters, how much value do you get out of your starters against their backups? I mean, you kick their butt.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully.
Get value. Yeah, right. Get value on the scoreboard. But I would guess then this will be a very – I mean, there's certainly still key guys who are going to play in this game for the Titans who are trying to make the team or are trying to prove they should have this role or that role. But I would suspect that, yeah, like you said, most of the work will be this week. And to the texter's point, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of value in these team practices. That's why everybody's doing them now. This used to be one of those here and there you'd see teams do it, and now it's like everybody finds a partner, it seems like, in a regular off-season anyway, or preseason anyway, and does this. And there's a lot. I mean, you definitely get more orneriness in these drills because it's not, teammates who are – and that still sees fights sometimes. These can see some all-out brawls at times. So it gets a little salty. So, you have the injury risk a little bit higher. But, if you're the Titans, I think this is a great opportunity. You go down and drill against some great players for the defending Super Bowl champs.
It's going to be hot.
And it's going to be hot.
About 95 tomorrow and Thursday.
That's lovely.
In Tampa Bay. It's going to be hot.
That's good for the disposition.
Oh, yeah. There'll be a little bit of discomfort down there in old Tampa, Florida. See how that goes.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben texting in, is there any benefit to having the starters on offense play so that Todd Downing can get experience calling plays together with them on the field? Because I am still nervous about his ability. What do you think of that? Any benefit to having Tannehill and the starters in there to see how the operation works with Todd Downing calling plays in an actual game?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, like there's just – I mean, you're probably just thinking about things differently. Obviously, if you're Downing and you have Julio Jones on your team, right? I mean, I just got to think that you're going to do some different things with him and A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry than you would with, Marcus Johnson, Nick Westbrook-Akina, and, Mekhi Sargent. Maybe not. It's like the offense is the offense. You run outside zone. You run play action off it. You got certain things you like, but I suppose that there's probably some value in him calling the plays and actually having those guys out there, but it might just be in the opener, he's going to be like the kid on Christmas morning, like, oh, my gosh, and we're throwing to A.J. and Julio today.
Well, also,
every play is going to work.
Putting him in here now, and look, I understand the sentiment. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but there's a big difference in calling plays in preseason games and regular season games. I mean, how much are you really scheming up against Tampa Bay this week? Probably not a lot.
Exactly. No, that's a great point. I mean, in a regular season game, there is a game plan, a specific game plan. There's a catalog of plays that you practice all week, and then there's counters to those plays, and it's a plan. And in the preseason, you do some things that are like a game week, but it's largely like Vrabel said the other day, like they kept it super simple. I mean, shoot the one drive, like, let's just run in the line and kick a field goal. We got to see these kickers. It's just so different. You're not trying to get a specific matchup against a specific defensive player. In a regular season game, you're like, we need to target this guy. We're going to get him isolated against our guy here, and this is going to be a big play in the game. None of that happens in the preseason. So I think you're right. It's just such a different just the operation is totally different.
Yeah, and Beauclair said earlier in the segment or early in the hour that maybe Tannehill sees a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half coming down the stretch here. I wouldn't mind seeing him play a little bit. I don't think you're going to see Derrick Henry at all, but I can't imagine it's going to be much more than that for Tannehill. I mean, Vrabel has already shown, risk reward. He lays more on the side of being cautious in the preseason. I think that's probably the right call. And more, I mean, you're looking around the league. A lot of quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, just aren't playing in the preseason. Although, Brady was out there the other day. The oldest one in the league. He's out there playing.
Out there taking
two
hits.
passes. Got sacked.
Bruce Arians not afraid.
Yeah.
Although this week I guess he is. But
well, that vaunted Titans pass rush, you don't want to put Brady out there.
He saw Rashad Weaver and he's like, nah, we're not going to put our guys up against that guy. No, but I mean, Vrabel is just, and it's just, I mean, it is the trend. Your guy, how many players did your guy sit?
There was about 33 out of the lineup the other night for the Packers against the Texans.
I mean, I got to say, I mean, if I had that job,
nobody played.
Yeah, if I had that job and my season gets flushed because of a preseason snap. Oh, but then again, there is that balance. There's the balance of can you really expect these guys to just come together in a game that counts after like a few days of practice, game week, and be really good? I mean, I just think for the Titans, it's like look back to last year. It was clunky early, but it didn't take long in the regular season for it to get rolling. That's probably how they're looking at it.
Yep. Let's go back to the text line. Justin texting in. Are all these wide receivers really that good, or is it we've never had a quarterback like Tannehill to make them look good?
Wow. Now here's the counterpoint. The Tannehill's so good that all these guys are actually, just,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's put them on scholarship. Tannehill is. It's funny because I have a Q&A with Marcus Johnson today at The Athletic. But he actually talked about that. He was talking about the chemistry. I'm going to read this quote for you, actually, from this piece. So he was asked about the chemistry with Tannehill. Like, how were you able to get how were you able to get the chemistry going so quickly with Tannehill? Because Marcus Johnson, certainly, like, they are on the same page. It's not like they've had a bunch of time. And the quote from Marcus Johnson is, I mean, honestly, I think he's that talented. It was effortless for him to get me the ball and to find me. So Marcus Johnson kind of buys into that idea. Yeah. But no, I mean, look, Tannehill is very good. These guys, some of these receivers are really good. I mean, Marcus Johnson is a fascinating case. If you really look at his career, 2 different coaches at Texas, hadn't really figured it out. Tremendous athlete, didn't produce a ton. Latches down with the Eagles, somehow makes that team, wins a ring with them in 2017. But you're talking torn meniscus, high ankle sprain, torn ankle ligaments, multiple quad injuries, concussion, grade 2 hamstring strain, and at twice with the Colts, injuries, a concussion, and I think the quad that were terribly timed. And I mean, for the Colts, he had 31 catches for 532 in the past 2 seasons. That's 17 per catch. He was a big play guy for them. He's a big play guy a little bit for the Eagles. He's a really fascinating guy who's only 27. He's still got great speed, and he's figured, he's worked on his craft. He's really good. We know A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are really good. I mean, I think Josh Reynolds, you saw that a little bit yesterday if you were out at Nissan Stadium. I mean, the guy can run. So, no, this is the best receiver room the Titans have ever had. I'm confident saying that. That's an easy one. Marcus Johnson said it's the best room he's been in, too. And, again, Brown and Jones alone, but some of these secondary guys are pretty good, and Nick Westbrook-Akina is not bad, too. I'm just saying.
That's right. Christopher on Periscope. So with that in mind, are we saying the first time that the first team guys are going to play together is week 1? If so, that's not ideal because the first 4 games are the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Colts, and the Jets. Got to watch out for those Jets.
Yeah, right. Well, top 100 players galore all over that team. Yeah, I think that is possible. Now, again, maybe Vrabel looks at the Bears game and says, hey, let's get a quarter. Let's get 2 series, whatever, with these guys. I also think look, I think Julio Jones would have practiced more had he not had his little injury. And A.J. Brown's out there yesterday. I mean, I think they'd like to have them get some work together. Yep. So I would not rule out that this week or next week, Julio Jones, all of a sudden you start seeing him on the practice field and especially working with Tannehill. As far as all together, again, like you said, Derrick Henry just –
there's no reason for him to be in a game.
Yeah. You know what he's going to do. He knows what to do. But the passing, timing, and all that stuff is important. I totally agree. So I don't think Mike Vrabel wants this to just be game week, the first time that Julio Jones works extensively. I also have my doubts it'll be this week. But I'm kind of looking at next week as a sweet spot where you might see Julio Jones – you got the Bears game, and then you have that long gap. Yeah. It's not just game week after that. You have 2 weeks before you actually have the opener, so there's still a lot of time to get work in.
Coming up next, we got some tickets to give away to Nashville SC. Have that opportunity coming up for you on the other side of the break. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. ESPN 94.9 is the official English radio home of the Nashville Soccer Club. Listen in tomorrow night as Nashville SC takes on Orlando at Nissan Stadium. Pregame starts at 7:15, and the match begins at 7:30. And speaking of the match tomorrow for Nashville SC against Orlando, we've got some tickets to give away for that match. And Ryan Porth, our esteemed Ryan Porth, has come up with a wonderful trivia question that if you know the answer, hit up our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Text line, 615-737-1025. Ryan Porth, what is today's trivia question for our listeners to have a chance to win some Nashville SC tickets to see Nashville SC take on Orlando tomorrow night at Nissan Stadium?
Well, and we must emphasize we only take text submissions.
Yes.
No calls. Only text submissions. All right, so here's the trivia question. Leo Messi has been in the news here in the last week or two for leaving Barcelona and going to Paris, switching club teams.
Can you pronounce the name of the team he went to?
Is it Saint Herman?
Sure. Yep, sounds right.
We need Justin Bradford in here.
Might be in here Thursday.
So he ranks fourth, Leo Messi, or Lionel Messi, however you want to know him as. Messi ranks fourth all-time in goals. So that includes league games, tournament games, international games, all of that. He ranks fourth all-time for soccer players. Can you name one player that has more goals all-time than Messi?
If you could name one player that has more all-time goals than Messi, hit up our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. You could win some tickets to see Nashville SC take on Orlando tomorrow night at Nissan Stadium. That's a good one. I like that.
It is. I have no idea the answer.
You have no idea, Joe?
No.
Okay.
I do. But I'm not going to say, because that would really defeat the purpose of the text line.
That's right. Let's stop talking about it.
That's right.
Give us the right answer.
That's right. Hit up our text line, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, you were out at Vanderbilt practice yesterday. What's it been like so far covering practice at Vanderbilt with Clark Lee and company heading into year one?
Yeah, interesting practice yesterday. Couple hours. It's kind of a nice, you got sort of like a porch looking out from McGugin Center onto the two practice fields. And, I mean, overall, I'm impressed with the practice, the organization, the operation. It's it's very, he runs a good practice, and I'm surprised right now from what I'm seeing, and you can always take this either way, but what I'm seeing with the Vanderbilt defense against the Vanderbilt offense. The Vanderbilt defense is really winning, which I can't say that I would have necessarily expected, because I think the strength of the team is the quarterbacks and the receivers. And I do say quarterbacks because, again, Mike Wright, I think Ken Seals is going to be the starter this year. I don't see Mike Wright overtaking him, but there's not a big gap between those two players, I don't believe. Mike Wright's really promising young quarterback. And, again, they have good receivers, but to tell you what, that defense really taking it to the offense, which, it just depends on how you want to look at life, If you're a Vanderbilt fan, you got the glass half full, and by gosh, Clark Lee's a defensive coach, and Jesse Minter comes in from the NFL, and they've got them all fired up, and you still have some good players. I will say that, like Davion Davis, I think he's a guy we're going to talk about this year for Vanderbilt. DeRicky Wright, and some, Anthony Orji. There's some good players on that defense, on the front line of the defense. If they can avoid injury, I think they've got some defense. This is often the case with Vanderbilt. You get in the 2s and 3s, and it's just you can't match up with. But they've had some good frontline players, and I think they do now. So if you're glass half full, you're just excited about the defense, and the glass half empty, you're like, what is going on with this offensive line in particular? Because they are not winning, and you can tell that after some of the team stuff yesterday, the O-line drills were interesting. They were pretty aggressive and intense. And I kind of reacting to what had just happened in team. I mean, it was 2 minutes, but again, they are winning right now, or at least, and apparently they did in the scrimmage Saturday, which I wasn't able to go to. So That's somewhat surprising. Again, I think if you figure it out on the offensive line, I think you're going to be able to throw the ball at this team. Raymond Davis, the running back from Temple, I really like him. He can't get hurt either because the depth is a real problem at that position. But you can see a pathway to an interesting team.
I'm interested to see what offensively their skill positions look like. Obviously, we talked a lot last year about Keon Henry Brooks and the role that he played for this team. He is not there. It's not going to be a part of things this year for Vanderbilt. So are there enough playmakers outside of Ken Seals and Mike Wright at quarterback to really make this offense dangerous? Obviously, I mean, you talked about the offensive line, and we know in the SEC that's largely what it comes down to is can you control the line of scrimmage, or at least can you hold your own on the line of scrimmage long enough to give your quarterback time to make plays? And it's going to come down to that. But does Vanderbilt have enough guys at the skill positions to be threats offensively? Really interested to see, especially at running back, how that process shakes out.
Yeah, Will Shepherd is an absolute name to watch for Vanderbilt. I just think, and he was standout in the spring game, and every time I go out there, I've been out to a couple practices, he stands out to me. I mean, Will Shepherd is I think he could be, a breakout player this year. But you've got Amir Abdur-Rahman. You got, of course, Cam Johnson. You got Chris Pierce. You got a lot of ability and production there. And, Ben Bresnahan is, I think, a really nice tight end as a senior who's going to make plays. Like they've got the guys, I think, to move the ball. Nice, variety there. Again, Raymond Davis, I think, he can have a chance to have a big year. Just gotta, you gotta be able to win at the point of attack. And again, this is just, it's a common Vanderbilt thing. Like up front in the trenches, can you hang with good teams? I think the recruiting is getting there. It has a chance to get them there down the line, but this year, I just don't know. By the way, they did have a couple of decommitments yesterday. I don't know why they had 2 in one day, but still a good class, but lost 2 guys yesterday.
Ryan Porth, do we have any winners in our trivia question for Nashville SC tickets against Orlando? The question was, Leo Messi, 4th all-time in goals when you factor in club play, international play, 4th all-time in goals. Can you name one player that's ahead of Messi on that list? Do we have any winners?
Yes, we do. We had a lot of people guess correctly. A lot of answers for Cristiano Ronaldo, which is correct.
He was on the list.
Pele, which is correct.
That was my first response, was Pele.
I thought that was too obvious.
But
I guess, yeah.
You said, when I said the trivia question, Joe, that you had no idea who'd be on the list.
Well, what he's saying is he thought Pele was too obvious.
That's what I'm saying.
He didn't go that
I thought
way.
Pele was too obvious.
Okay.
So
He's not bashing your trivia question.
I thought
I kind of think
I
he
kind
is.
of am. I thought it was more of a deep cut. But I guess it was an easy one. Fine.
And then Romario. Those are the
wouldn't have
three.
that one.
Those
No.
are the 3 ahead of Messi. So if you guessed one correctly,
Be on the
you
lookout
were
for
correct,
text.
and you've already received a text if you're a winner.
There you go.
So if you haven't received
Congrats.
a text, you weren't fast enough with your fingers to text in the correct
There
answer.
you go.
Sucks to be you. Congrats to those who did, and sorry to those who didn't.
By the way, we'll have another opportunity to join our fantasy football league coming up at 8:45 today.
If you want that smoke.
8:45 today here on the show. If
Make
you want
sure.
that smoke, it's going to be a very competitive league. We have 4 spots remaining in our league. We'll give one of those away today at 8:45.
Brennan had a draft last night.
Oh, really? Before the second preseason game.
Yeah, like a bunch of 9th graders. A 6-team draft.
6.
I'm like, dude, what?
You get A.J. Brown like the
Yeah, he's like,
Ninth round.
I got Mahomes, McCaffrey, Kamara. I'm like, okay. All right, man. I mean, I guess it's fun. You get all amazing players, but I think you need a little bit more than that.
minimum of 8. Minimum.
I mean, I've only the lowest I've had was 10, and even that was like, geez, this is not hard. But a 6-team, that'll be good. Give Brennan a false sense of confidence,
That's
and he
right.
can come in and just be absolutely
Just get
annihilated in this
crushed.
league.
That's
Can't
right.
wait.
It's going to be awesome. When we come back, we'll be joined by Trey Wallace, RockyTopInsider.com. We'll get the latest on the Tennessee Volunteers. How's the quarterback battle going in fall camp? What's it been like so far under Josh Heupel in year one. All that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesale Link Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. Here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Talking Vols now in fall camp. Looking forward to action coming up beginning on September the 2nd for Tennessee. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our good friend Trey Wallace from RockyTopInsider.com. Trey, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
I'm good, man. I can't believe we're getting so close to the start of football season. I mean, we're 2 weeks away. This is nuts.
It's very difficult to believe, but the best time, Josh Heupel, year one, heading into his first year here in Knoxville. What have been a couple of things that you've noticed so far for Tennessee during fall camp?
To me, it's, trying to figure out depth at certain positions, whether that be the defensive line, whether that be, who backs up Jeremy Banks, Jamon Mitchell at that linebacker spot. I think them trying to figure out the offensive line and how that's going to work together. Is Darnell Wright going to stick at that left tackle spot? Do they put Cade Mays? Can they put Cade Mays into a guard position? I think some of those storylines have been the ones that have stood out to me. Besides, besides the obvious, the quarterback battle. In talking with folks, I think that they are over the moon when it comes to what they have, at least at the 3 deep, when it comes to running back. And I didn't know to expect that really coming out of the spring, just because we didn't get to see a lot of Tyon Evans because he was hurt. But in listening to Jerry Mack yesterday and talking with a few folks around the facility, Tyon Evans is starting to emerge as that type of running back that they're going to be able to rely on and not have to, take out of the game, be somebody that can be a bruiser, but also somebody that has the speed to get to the outside. And I think that's something that when you look at it on paper, with Jabari Small, Tyon Evans, who could take that third spot at running back? We'll see. Is it somebody like Jalen Wright? Does D. Beckwith, kind of solidify himself as that maybe today at the scrimmage? We'll see. But to me, overall, guys, it's depth at certain spots and how they've been to adjust to it.
So do you think Tyon Evans could actually end up getting more work, more production than Jabari Small this year? Because they were obviously excited about Jabari going into camp.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's something when you look at it, it's kind of like what Jerry Mack said yesterday. It's going to kind of be 1A, 1B, in my opinion. But really, who gets the hot hand? There's not a lot of time for subbing when it comes to what this offense does and how they get it out there. But I think right now it's whoever kind of gets, in the motion when it comes to the quarterback and could start moving the football. It wouldn't surprise me if Jabari Small is a starter, but then 4 plays later, Tyon Evans is in, and they have themselves a nice little 1-2 punch. So I think Tennessee found themselves in a nice little spot when it comes to running back, Joe.
Trey Wallace from Rocky Top Insider on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Trey, with that in mind, obviously a lot of Tennessee fans very hyper-focused on the quarterback competition with Joe Milton, Harrison Bailey, Hendon Hooker still around as well. No sign of Brian Maurer as of late. What's the latest that you're hearing on the quarterback battle at Tennessee?
Well, you kind of hit on that last guy, Brian Maurer. He hasn't been around in practice for the last 5 days, so that's starting to become a non-factor at Tennessee. And this is not a shot at the young man, but he wasn't going to be a factor in this quarterback race. At the beginning, it was going to come down to what Joe Milton, Hendon Hooker, and Harrison Bailey did. And as we sit right now, Tennessee does have a scrimmage that they're scheduled to kick off in 40 minutes. But right now, it feels like Joe Milton is the guy that's going to run out and be QB1 for the first game against Bowling Green. He's got a great arm. He can get outside the pocket. He's somebody that can get up between the tackles, pick up that 3rd and 4, but also be able to sling it 30 yards down the field on a hitch or, a post, however you want to, Alex Golesh and Josh Heupel want to call these plays. To me, though, Hendon Hooker is a guy, in talking with some folks that, shouldn't be, don't forget about it. He's going to be a guy that's going to play some football here at Tennessee, I have a feeling. He has showed out this fall camp. And look, today is a big day for someone like Hendon Hooker and even Harrison Bailey, who could potentially be that 2 guy. Or do they do enough today to make a little jump with Milton and make the coaches feel a little bit more comfortable? Maybe so. But as we sit right now, I think it's Joe Milton as the quarterback. I think he brings a little bit more than each of the other guys do. And, now you just have to hope if that situation comes down to it, that you don't have something like what happened at Kentucky with Joey Gatewood. Because Tennessee needs these quarterbacks. They need Hendon Hooker and Bailey. If they are, the backups, they need them to stick around. So I'm interested to hear what Heupel says about that today at his post-scrimmage press conference.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting push-pull, Trey, because I mean, look, you've got to devote more reps to who you're going to have playing, right? I mean, a new offense, I mean, you've got to start funneling the reps to one or two people, but you're also thinking roster management. Because I wondered today, today just reads to me like this is like a weeder class, okay? Like the third guy becomes the third guy today, and then you go with two who are getting the bulk of the reps, but to your point, maybe not just because you don't want to be all of a sudden down to two QBs. How do you think Heupel views that balancing act?
I think that they had so many problems on offense during last week's scrimmage when it comes to false starts or when it comes to drop passes, protection reads. I don't know if the other two guys really got that good of a shot is the best way to put it. Like the offense is so out of rhythm. So I think today they're hoping, okay, everybody can get in sync on this thing and these guys can go out and really show how they do in live game situation. Now look, they do that every day at practice. You know this, Joe. They running the 11s, however you want to put it. But I think that Josh Heupel understands his situation. Look at the quarterbacks at UCF that he had and had to manage down there. I think when it comes to Tennessee, you don't want to run off anybody, but I agree you got to start cutting down because next week they're actually going to start going in game week mode. They're going to have 2 weeks of kind of game week mode, and that means how they practice, when they practice, when it comes to curfew and whatnot, and the meeting schedule. So we're getting close to Tennessee kind of so-called wrapping this thing up and getting ready for the first game of the season. So if somebody's going to make a move, it's got to be this week. And I just think, and adding on to that, I think if you know who your starting guy is, it would be better suited to come out and just get this thing over with and just say it. And I'm not just saying that as a journalist who wants something to write. I'm just saying that I'm just saying it as for the locker room. Know who your leader is because Tennessee has run into so many problems over the last 3 to 4 to 5 years when it comes to a quarterback, naming a guy, not switching up, just going with one guy. You don't want to see that happen again. So they got a big decision to make.
Trey, what's the state of the offensive line? How much depth do you think is on the offensive line for this Tennessee team? And is Darnell Wright going to be the guy that ultimately ends up at left tackle?
Oh, I think so. I think at left tackle you're going to see Darnell Wright. I think at left guard you're going to see Jerome Carvin. At center you're going to see Cooper Mays, and right guard you're going to see Spraggins. And right tackle you're going to see Cade Mays. Now they would love to put Cade Mays inside, put him at a guard spot, but it's all about how can they fill that out? Does a guy like Dane Davis, who was a hot name to kind of start fall camp, is I don't want to say falling off or anything along those lines, but I think Tennessee is starting to feel comfortable with Darnell Wright at that left tackle position, something that he hadn't practiced before, which you talked about yesterday. So I think that when you come down to it with the offensive line and how things are going to play out, the good part about it is you've got a player, like Jerome Carvin, who's played center before. So if something happens, he can do that again. I think when you look at this thing, they were trying to see, like a player like Jeremiah Crawford, a JUCO guy that had just come in, that played football 4 months ago, or an R.J. Perry, or a Parker Ball. How do these guys max up? I think Tennessee has 8 guys along the offensive line, just right now, 8 guys in total that can go out there and play. But I'd be lying to you if I said they were lacking depth. This is a problem where they can't have somebody go down during the season, because if they do, it's going to throw things for a big wrinkle. Because I think right now they have themselves a 5 that can get the job done.
Well, let's go to the other side, Trey. I just feel like, some people have to emerge in that defensive front, to give everyone else a chance. Anyone you feel, better about, worse about? I mean, how is that group in your view at this point in camp?
I think that on the inside, that's where kind of the trouble lies. I think on the outside, when you look at guys like Byron Young and Tyler Barron coming off the edge, you can even throw Roman Harrison in there, Bryson Easton if they want to get their hands in the dirt. I'm not worried about that part. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm worried about, how's Elijah Simmons doing? How's Dejon Terry? They have guys like Matthew Butler, who I think can be consistent for them. Latrell Bumpus, a guy that, should be cleared any day now and be able to start, rolling with that defensive line. They brought in guys, like I said earlier with Terry, but they also brought in Caleb Tremblay. They're hoping that it can bring depth to this line that is just, in my opinion, does not have that type of monster attitude type of guy that that can go get a stop on 3rd and 2. Right now, I feel like they're kind of lacking that because, they have it at the outside presence, but they don't have it right now in the interior. And I think that's somewhere where a Dejon Terry is going to have to step up. Where a Bumpus, if he can be healthy, can be the guy. Can Elijah Simmons, I know Ronnie Garner was on him the other day, but can he be a run stuffer right there in that line? There's so many different factors. And look, Rodney Garner is trying to get the most out of this group, but I'm really interested to see if they can go, and have an 8-deep, 7-deep type defensive line because this, guys, that offense is not going to be on the field long either way. They're either going to score a touchdown in 2 minutes and 50 seconds or they're going to be off the field in 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So I'm interested to see how the defensive line would play out in that type of situation, and we haven't even talked about the linebackers.
That's right. A lot of Tennessee fans may not want to talk about the linebackers. Trey Wallace from Rocky Top Insider has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Trey, great stuff, brother. Appreciate you taking time to join us. Have fun with the scrimmage coming up later this morning.
Yeah, we'll see, guys. Y'all have a wonderful week. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Right, Trey Wallace, RockyTopInsider.com, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll come back. We'll react to what Trey had to say there and get a little bit deeper into the Tennessee quarterback competition as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Tomorrow, it's your chance to participate in the Nashville SC Pick-to-Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. If you guess correctly which player scores a goal in the game tomorrow, you win a prize pack and a 4-pack of tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. Participate tomorrow morning at 9:45. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Thanks to Trey Wallace for joining us in the last segment. We'll be joined by Nashville Predators General Manager David Poile coming up at 9 o'clock. So looking forward to being joined by David Poile. Some big moves made by the Predators yesterday, getting their goaltender locked down. We'll talk to Poile about that and a lot more coming up at 9 o'clock. Joe, it seems like the Tennessee quarterback battle beginning to take a little bit more of a firm shape out in Knoxville. Brian Maurer's not been there the past few days. Was really never in the quarterback battle, in my opinion, as Trey pointed out in the last segment. But Joe Milton receiving a lot of buzz right now. People have been blown away by his arm strength so far at training camp for the Volunteers. And they had, I think, Cedric Tillman on the mic yesterday, Tennessee wide receiver, saying, they'd be running 55 yards down the field and coming to a stop. And Joe Milton would just be like, just keep going. I can throw that thing 70 or 80 yards. And apparently Joe Milton has been very impressive so far at Tennessee Vols training camp. So I would say he's probably the favorite at this point to land the quarterback job. My question to you is, how do you go about handling the rest of this if you're Josh Heupel? Whether it's Milton, whether after the scrimmage today, Bailey and Hooker put themselves maybe a little bit more deep into the conversation. But to your point with Trey, they're probably going to need some depth at this spot. Right now they've got it. Could that change if a starting quarterback is named? Could we see a Bailey or a Hooker end up in the transfer portal after that? How do you go about handling this if you're Josh Heupel in what's got to be a really difficult situation to manage from a quarterback roster standpoint?
Yeah, it has to be, because you've got to get reps. I'm sure Heupel would like triple the reps for whoever's going to be his quarterback than he's going to actually get, even though maybe the opener is not a huge concern for the Vols. In theory.
Well, maybe it should be.
In theory. But still, I mean, you're immediately going into a tough game right after that. I mean, you've got to get these guys ready to run this offense correctly, which, as we've learned from the first scrimmage, it had all kinds of issues. So it's really important to have a quarterback to take command out there. So I think some of the answer is just like you have to let them sort it out themselves, and who performs best and then who's second best. At some point, if one is here and 2 and 3 are down here, then I think you go that way. But and if it's 1 and 2 are up here and then there's a 3 down here, then you have to react to what you're seeing and how they're performing. But you can't tell me roster management isn't part of the thought process here. It has to be. If you end up with no QB depth, if you're like, okay, Joe Milton's a guy, throws it 80 yards, which, by the way, I don't care how far he throws the freaking ball. I couldn't care less.
He could check it, man.
Yeah, can you throw an accurate, 10-yard square in? That's, can you get the ball out, boom, read it correctly, and move the ball down the field and score points? I don't care. I understand, Joe Milton is an impressive specimen, huge guy, huge arm, but that doesn't, that's not why he's going to win the job. It sounds like he may anyway, but if you go, Joe Milton is the guy, and then the other two know that they aren't, maybe they're going to get mop-up duty. You could lose both of them. All of a sudden, it's like Joe Milton and, who is number 5?
I don't know.
There actually was a transfer that someone was telling me that they actually kind of like. I'm going to figure this out.
Is it someone with the last name of Clausen?
It could be. Statistically, your odds are pretty high. It's like a punter out there with Colquitt.
I think Gaston Moore. Gaston Moore is a UCF transfer. So
there you go.
Redshirt freshman. So Joe Milton and Gaston Moore. All right. That's not. Now I think that in all likelihood, I think it's very possible that Maurer, we know, is gone, and I don't know why Maurer doesn't just get in the portal.
I don't either.
And find a new place. To me, I don't think he's helping himself by sort of being in limbo. But I think it's very possible that another one of the other two, I assume it's the other two being Hooker and Bailey, will also get into the portal before the season starts. That's very possible. And look, if you have to roll with two guys, and I mean, it happens. It happens in college football. So you just can't roll with one. But I mean, this is where if you do sort of say, okay, here's two, and you guys are still battling it out, and I don't know yet, but you're going to split the reps, and all of them are going to you two, at least then you're probably going to have them for the whole season. And the other one is going to get out of there. Although, I mean, if it's not – honestly, the more I think about it, I think that guy might be Bailey. I think that the Bailey might be just the odd man out, and he might end up being a really good college quarterback somewhere. And you're talking about devoting everything in that instance to a senior and a junior, Hooker and Milton. But, I mean, I think that's the way it might go.
Well, it might. And, it's interesting. That's what college football is now. You got to be worried about roster management. I mean, ask Kirby Smart how trying to manage a quarterback room went for him. You end up keeping Jake Fromm, and you lose Justin Fields to Ohio State. It's a very difficult process if you're a head coach, but, it's a decision that you have to make. Like, we're getting close to the point now. The game is on September the 2nd. You're getting close to the point now, if you're Josh Heupel and Tennessee, where you got to start throwing some reps out there for your starting guy. Like, he's got to be getting the lion's share of the reps. And, one of the other concerns that I would have, and Trey brought it up towards the end there, the way they run offense with Josh Heupel, they like to go fast, and there's a lot of tempo involved. And he talked about it. They're either going to be scoring really fast, or they're going to be 3-and-out punting the ball really fast. And I like it. It's modern college football. I understand why they run it. With the depth or lack thereof on the defensive side of the ball for Tennessee, I don't know if that's going to be the best formula for this team to run the offense the way that Josh Heupel and company are going to run this thing.
Yeah, but
score points and worry about that other stuff later. I get it, but I'm just saying this could be a pretty rough defense to watch.
Well, that's why as Trey said, you need depth, because you're going to have to rotate bodies probably more than most defensive coordinators like to do it. But, I mean, you look at, like, the D-line, that's in particular, right? I mean, those guys, like the secondary, they're fine. Linebackers are going to – they don't have options, so the linebackers are going to
play.
But Matthew Butler, Tyler Barron, Blakely, Thomas, Young, Terry, Simmons, Tremblay, Bumpus, Harrison, Solomon. I mean, you do have a lot of guys. I don't think you have a lot of difference makers. You do have a lot of guys. You're going to have to – you need, like, 7, 8 guys you feel good about, then you can deal with that. But I don't think they're going to depart from what they do. They believe in it, and they believe that the way they play, you're right, it stresses your defense, but the idea is, and Alex Golish talked about this a couple weeks ago, like we're going to play hard longer than the other defense, so that late in the game, it's kind of the idea of like a Derrick Henry. It's just battering a defense in a different way, making them constantly catch their breath and never be able to sub, and but you got to execute for that to work. So you can't win at football with the way Josh Heupel likes to play if you don't have a good quarterback. And that's why the reps to me are just – they're so precious and have to be pared down. And I think today it just seems like it's like a high-pressure moment. Okay, let's see it, guys. Yep. Separate yourselves.
Well, and the offense as a whole, right? I mean, the first scrimmage didn't go well for the offense, and I don't think it's because the defense is especially talented. So you got to get this figured out if you're Heupel, where you need to have the offense on point as the season goes, because I know a lot of Tennessee fans, they were excited about the defense after the first scrimmage. And look, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the defense is going to be a lot better than I'm giving them credit for. I don't know, but I look at that defense on paper, and there's not a lot there.
I mean, defense ahead of offense is a thing. I think there are some players there. Like, again, Tyler Barron. I think Tyler Barron really interests me. Trey was like, well, less concern on the outside, more concern on the inside, which isn't great. And less concern is fine, but I want to know, is there somebody there who's going to actually concern offenses? I think Tyler Barron is a guy who could be that kind of guy. Will he be? I don't know. I think he's, I think Roman Harrison has ability. Like, can he take a big step? I think the secondary is fine. Not bad. But just like any secondary, are they going to be in 3rd and 2 all day and with guys in front of them who aren't affecting quarterbacks, or they actually have some people up there who make a difference?
When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on college football and the SEC, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. The preseason AP poll is out. The power rankings out at theathletic.com as well. We'll take a look at all that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Did you know Joe writes for The Athletic?
So I'd like to promote a couple things on The Athletic.
Oh, good.
Real quick.
Good.
You guys really think I'm a good promoter?
Yeah.
Probably the best in the league.
Yeah, that's what they say. Top 3. Yep. Right up there.
Yeah.
Here's another edition of Shameless Plugs with Joe Rexrode.
He is the best in the league. He is our own Joe Rexrode here on Robby and Rexrode, also of theathletic.com. And he's a man of many talents when it comes to the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Titans, the Vanderbilt Commodores, Tennessee Volunteers, any sport you want to throw out there. Joe Rexrode has you covered, both here on our show and at theathletic.com. And Joe Rexrode, you were a part of the SEC preview that has come out at theathletic.com, where you, alongside many of your other colleagues, answer some burning questions this year in the SEC, including breakout players to watch, the game you're most looking forward to. Can anybody in the world challenge Alabama and Georgia? Lots on the table in this SEC preview that you come out with.
Yeah, but the Jaguars just released Tim Tebow.
Jeez.
So, but it's SEC football related. So there you go.
I said yesterday he would not make it to September.
That's right. Good called shot. Guys, nice job.
You should make note of that in your called shots so that I can get official credit for that.
Okay. We can give you a half credit at least for that.
Thanks.
And by the way, among our little round table, our little SEC round table, I think I'm the most bullish on Florida, if we can tie that to Tim Tebow.
We can.
But one thing going through this process with distinguished colleagues like David Ubben,
Seth Emerson, friend of the show.
Yes, that's right. Most of these guys are friends. We had Josh Kendall on. Do we have Josh Kendall on?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. So most are friends of the show. I just came away like, man, how interesting is the SEC going to be this year? Because
it's always interesting, man.
It's always interesting, but it's just, is anyone going to challenge Georgia? I've wanted to believe in Florida. I still do. I just don't know, man. And then on the West, do we buy Texas A&M? I think that's probably the big hope. They get Alabama at home this year. I'm looking at Alabama. It's Bryce Young and like these 3 freshman receivers who are like ready for the NFL already. I mean, it's just going to be
Mechie
stupid.
out there, just the next.
Oh yeah,
Devontae
and
Smith.
him, by the way. Yeah, no, it's just going to be stupid. And their defense. Yeah, it's been a while since Alabama, I think, has sort of cycled up to a defense like this, and they've had so many injuries. So they've had some teams where they were fine. They just put 50 on you. But now I think they actually may have a vintage Saban Alabama defense this year as the young guys. It's just, the beat goes on there. How interesting. I mean, when I was asked for the most interesting thing, I went homer. I went local. I'm most interested in, how Heupel and Clark Lee do in year one with these programs in the state.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
But, I mean, what interests you outside of that? Outside of the championship races that may not be races, what actually excites you about SEC football this year?
I'm looking forward to Alabama, Florida. I'm looking forward to it. I think that's going to be a great game. Now, I'm looking forward to Georgia Clemson as well, but it has no impact on the actual race in the SEC.
That is a fantastic non-league game.
It's going to be
an
awesome non-league game, the first opening week of college football season. But you just lost Kellen Mond if you're Texas A&M. At quarterback, can they figure things out enough? I think they've got a lot of really good pieces. I think depth-wise, Jimbo has really done exactly what they brought him in there to do.
He's been recruiting.
He's been recruiting. Can you get the quarterback play to go along with it? Because you're going to need that against Alabama. I'm fascinated between Alabama and Florida. Going down to the swamp, you just lost Kyle Trask if you're Florida. So you've got to figure out quarterback if you're Dan Mullen. But this is also, to me, like where Dan Mullen is at his best when nobody expects him to be good at quarterback.
That's that's one of the biggest reasons that team intrigues me, because he, and just in general, not even quarterback, just like lower expectations. Like, you got to watch that guy. And I still think they have like a good team. They lost some amazing pass catchers too, not just Trask, but like, I just don't know. Is Emory Jones, like, is he the guy? They have other contenders there. That's going to be interesting to watch. But they are interesting. I mean, I think LSU is really interesting too.
Yeah.
I mean, LSU, we're one season in between Coach O and a natty.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, he's almost like the Ryan Tannehill of college coaches. Just in that people go quickly to, yeah, this guy's not good enough.
Right.
And I think it's probably, is it just like his big, gregarious Southern Fred Flintstone personality? I mean,
so.
I don't know.
I think so.
Is that what it is?
Go Tiger.
I'm trying to do a press conference over here. I mean, it's amazing. The guy had one of the greatest college football teams I've ever seen.
In history.
That we'll all ever see.
Yeah.
2 years ago. But, they've recruited to that too. So you got to figure out quarterback. They've got some great, talent at every spot. But you can't go 8-4 this year if you're Coach O.
Yeah. No, there's
That's
pressure.
just how
on
it
him.
is at that program.
Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely pressure on him this year to perform and to be better. I mean, I remember thinking last year after the first week when Mississippi State just came in there and aerated them to death in that game, I was like, oh, buddy, Mike Leach, baby, here he comes. And that was it. I'm always going to be intrigued by the two Mississippi programs while those two guys are the coach. I mean, it is what it is. But I will say, I think Lane Kiffin's a really good coach, and I think they've got a chance if they can have some improvement defensively, because they're not going to be a top defensive team. But if you can move from 115th overall or whatever they were last year to 75th overall, just show some improvement. Their offense is going to be fun. Matt Corral is going to be fun to watch. I think they've got a chance to hang around in the SEC West. They're not going to beat Alabama. They're not going to win the SEC West or anything. But I do think with that offense, they've got a chance to hang around and make things interesting. I don't know that I feel the same way about Mike Leach.
Well, no, I agree, but I think it's a big year for Mike Leach. I mean, the way things went from that start to the rest of the year, it's first year, and it's not like what he does is just snap your fingers and you're good at it, and you got to find the right people to do it. But I feel like there's, he's got to show something this year that they've got to demonstrate some progress. I mean, Vanderbilt should have beat that team on the road last year. But I don't have much optimism for them. I think it's an important year, even though it's only year 2 for him in that place.
John texting into our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Vols are going to have Peyton Manning punching the air when he sees that team play this year. Also, not an Alabama fan, but the only thing that could make them better is if Forrest Gump returns to the team. Nice shout out. What a great movie, Forrest Gump.
Great returner.
Great returner for Alabama.
Not great at running plays and stuff, but unbelievable.
Great at landscaping
unbelievable
too.
Kick return.
Had that field looking in tip-top shape.
Very versatile.
That's right. Well, I mean, Vols fans are hoping at this point that Peyton Manning just doesn't show up and he's not in the stadium, because the Peyton Manning curse starting to look like it might be real. He showed up to the College World Series. Tony Vitello and company immediately just go in the tank.
Yeah, he should stick to just doing the funny commercial with Tony Vitello.
Yeah.
Or the little video thing on Twitter, and then but not going. Because isn't that why he went to the Georgia Southern game?
Yeah. He did.
To break the curse, right? Okay, I'm going to go to this crap game. Then you guys can all stop talking about it. And they lost that. I mean, what else you need to see?
Peyton Manning curse is real, man. Maybe that's the whole problem. It's not the coaches. Just Peyton's around too much. Get him out of there. Get your most visible player in program history out of there.
So he was at that game in South Carolina in 2016? Was he here in 2016?
I don't think so.
Yeah. But I guess if you lose enough of those Peyton curse games, it'll demoralize you as a team.
I guess so.
He's got to prepare to eat Cheetos and watch Monday Night Football with Eli this year. So maybe
there's a lot of work on the table for Peyton this year. See what happens on that front. When we come back, it is time for our fantasy football trivia question. Your opportunity to join the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League is coming up next. We'll have that for you. Also, react to Tim Tebow being released by the Jaguars as well. All that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Going to be joined by David Poyle, Nashville Predators general manager, coming up to begin the 9 o'clock hour. So looking forward to that conversation coming up in about 13 minutes or so. Right now, though, we've got your next opportunity to join the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League. We have 4 spots remaining in our Fantasy Football League, so by the time Friday's show ends, our league will be filled, and we will be ready to rock.
That's right. We have 4 people in now?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. What are their names?
I have them all on a list that I can pull up here shortly. But I don't have the list in front of me right now,
Judas?
So let me do that.
Is Judas on there?
I don't think Judas is on there. don't think he's on there. Ron is on the list, I can tell you that.
Ron, John.
Well, John gave up a spot.
Yeah, that's right.
Ron.
John went to Ron.
Right.
Yeah.
There was another one that started with a J. Josh?
Jacob in Murfreesboro.
Jacob. That's right.
Yep.
We'll get there. We'll familiarize ourselves.
Yeah.
Because there must be much trash talking done to all of you.
That's right.
Make sure you want to deal with that if you want to get in this league.
That's right. So 4 spots remaining in the league. We give away a spot every day via a trivia question on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. And today's trivia question is this. And this is a little bit more difficult. You had to be listening yesterday. Joe Rexrode had his weekly Rex rant yesterday. And part of the Rex rant evolved around his 2 dogs yesterday. Can you name Joe Rexrode's 2 dogs that were part of the Rex rant yesterday? Can you name them? On our text line. Hit up our text line, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. The first person to correctly guess Joe Rexrode's names of his dogs on the text line will win a spot in our Fantasy Football League.
We had a little. We talked a little BM in the AM yesterday.
Yeah, it was. We did.
Poor, you don't get that, Porth?
No.
How you do? Bowel movement.
Come on, man.
I think you could have given him.
Now
all
he
day.
gets it.
He would have never guessed it.
I never would have gotten that.
Oh, man.
That's good, Joe.
Yeah, thanks.
Little BM in the AM yesterday.
That's what we should rename the Rex Rant segment. Little BM in the AM.
That's about right. That's about right.
Hit up the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Okay, I got to give a shout out to Todd from Nashville. Pooper 1 and 2.
Yes.
That's what we should rename them, Todd. So you're not in the league, but I may rename them.
It could be on the table for a name change. Speaking of Jacksonville, some bad news coming out of the Jaguars. Tim Tebow has been released from the Jacksonville Jaguars. We talked about the blocking that took place in the preseason game for Tebow over the weekend. Did not go well. Whatever is happening in the other room, apparently going very well for Ryan.
Someone gets Fifi and Rover.
Good enough. Tebow released from the Jaguars. Scale of 1 to 10, Rexrode. How surprised are you that Tebow's gone this quick?
I'm a 7 that he's gone this quick. I'm an 8. I'm an 8 that he's gone this quick. I mean, I figured Urban would at least have him like sing the Florida fight song at dinner a few times or something.
I did too.
But I mean, hey, look, we were all like laughing and joking about the blocking clips, but I bet you the coaches weren't. I mean, you can't play that position in this league and be that averse to blocking. It's like Corey Davis is a freaking top 100 player, baby, because he blocks at receiver.
Right.
But yes, I'm surprised it's this fast. Porth is still laughing about BM. You can do a lot of things with BM.
No, we now have a guess for Reximus, Maximus, and Megatron.
Yeah.
Oh, Major and Champ.
By the way, I don't think we have a correct answer yet. So still open.
Now here's one that's got one of them right, but the other one wrong.
Yeah.
One was Donnie Cowboy.
One of them I was yelling, and it's funny because it's actually a good recollection because I was yelling about how when one of them would squeeze out some doo-doo on a neighbor's lawn, I was saying, yes, blank E. Like I was using his name and adding an EE, right?
Yes. Which we'll accept that, I suppose. If you add
Well, but it wasn't. But it's
I understand.
It's a different take on that name, just not quite there.
So they're still open. If you know the names of Joe Rexrode's dogs that he had the Rex rant about yesterday, we do not yet have a winner.
We've stumped people.
All right, we were looking for a more difficult one.
We've ramped up the difficulty big time. So if you get this today, you have earned your way in.
615-737-1025 on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
What if Katie texts in the right answer? Do we let her in the league?
We apparently have a winner on Twitch.
Oh, we're accepting Twitch?
That's what we were trying to determine.
So many platforms. Well, I think the Twitcher needs to put it on the text line.
Yes. And has to do it before everybody goes to Twitch and looks at the chat.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
615-737-1025. Better get there
yourself.
Quick.
So close.
This is a good
Mark
trivia
from
question.
So close.
Yeah.
No, not quite.
We were looking to ramp up that difficulty a little bit, and we finally done it. It's going to be more difficult as we go ahead here. The next 3 days after this.
Coming up next, which dog's BM is lighter than the others?
Well, I guess if you're the Titans now, you don't have to worry about the Tim Tebow jump pass when you play the Jacksonville Jaguars twice this year. Probably just going to be Trevor Lawrence that you're worried about throwing the ball, not Tim Tebow.
Yeah, you took a lot of that versatility out of that offense. I bet you Dan Campbell would like to pick him up.
You think anybody picks him up?
I mean, Dan Campbell comes from the school of, let's use Taysom Hill in various ways. So maybe, I don't know.
Well, maybe he ends up with the Saints. They're looking for a quarterback.
Well, that's true, too. I'd take Tebow over freaking Taysom Hill as a quarterback.
You really don't like Taysom Hill.
I just think he's not good. I think he's a hell of an H-back. No, I don't know. Will anyone look at Tebow? I'm guessing no.
It's probably done, would be my guess.
So, what was that? Was that another called shot from Porth yesterday that he'll be on SEC Network as of?
He said SEC Network by October.
I think you're going to end up being too late, man. I think he can be there for the opener
next week.
Well, I said by October.
Well, I understand.
In all seriousness, on the SEC
Network,
said
September.
I should have.
Does Tebow bring anything other than like the fact that he's Tim Tebow? I just don't think he's very good on the air.
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I like him.
I haven't seen analysis from him that I thought like he should be better at analyzing things. Like I know that Tony Romo is an unfair football nerd, standard to set, but I don't recall seeing Tebow actually deliver insight into the game that anyone who just watches football wouldn't know already. Am I wrong? Have I missed that?
I mean, I'm not keeping a running tally. I've enjoyed watching him on TV.
Yeah, well, I don't expect you to tell me the exact show and the exact now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know
there's some analysts who you're like, yeah, I really want to hear this analyst.
Yeah, like Greg McElroy. McElroy's
good.
Yeah,
McElroy's good. Again, Romo, is fun. I mean, Louis Riddick is great. There's people who bring more than just the obvious surface stuff, and I just feel like Tebow just talks about like, yay, let's be excited and culture and stuff. Use the word culture a lot.
Just replays the speech of Florida losing to Ole Miss and him guaranteeing they're not going to lose another game the rest of the year.
Yeah, just yelling at the guys. I don't know. I mean, I understand why you'd have him on because he's Tim Tebow.
Yeah,
but I don't think their coverage is helped by him being on it.
Port, do we have a winner in the competition?
Yes, we do.
Uh-oh.
Our Twitcher.
He got there quick enough.
Texter.
Ooh, Twitcher to texter.
Cody is the winner who correctly identified Quinn and Gus.
That's right.
Well done.
All right, Gussie.
Way to go, Gussie. Nice job, Gus.
We had a couple people get Gus, but not Quinn, and a couple others that got Quinn but not Gus.
Well, Mark from Clarksville had now he says Quinn and Stacy. He had Quinn and Cece.
Yes.
So he remembers me saying, "Oh, good poopy Gussie." But he doesn't remember the exact. I'm sorry, Mark. I feel your pain, man. You're like right on the doorstep.
Way to go, Cece.
You're right on the doorstep of a beautiful BM, and you just couldn't quite get there.
We had somebody guess Jadavion Rexcroak, which if you get another dog, Has to be the name of the dog.
Yeah, if we get a goldfish, that sucker is named Jadeveon Rexrode for sure.
That's right. Congratulations to Cody, and we will have 3 more opportunities this week for our fantasy football league.
Another guess was Gus and Gizmo.
It's like Gremlins.
Gus and Gizmo.
That's
good
God,
stuff.
these are better names than we came up with.
There's a lot of really good names.
The next time I name a pet, I'm going to go to the text line for suggestions.
Right. When we come back, we'll be joined by Nashville Predators General Manager David Poyle. We'll do that next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com, here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And we are pleased to go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Nashville Predators General Manager David Poyle. David, thanks so much for taking time to join us. How's the offseason treating you so far?
I've been a little busy. Again, nothing's been quite normal yet due to this COVID and the Delta variant, but we got hockey back in Nashville yesterday. The players were on the ice yesterday afternoon in our development camp. It was really exciting to see some of the young players. It was I didn't realize I got to meet some of them for the first time. That we've drafted them 2 and 3 years ago, and because of the COVID and the change of schedules, border crossings. It was actually the first time that I got to see some of these guys live, if you will, and actually meet them. So it was exciting for us, and I know it was very exciting for them.
Well, it was, and David, to that point, Philip Tomasino, one of the top guys at development camp for you guys so far this year, and he talked yesterday about feeling like he's ready to make the jump to the NHL, and not only ready to make the jump, but ready to be a significant contributor as well. Number one, what do you think of those comments? And number two, where do you kind of forecast Philip Tomasino as to where he is right now and how he could potentially fit into your lineup at this point?
I had a talk with Phil yesterday, too, and he always has impressed me from the day that we drafted him in terms of his, I'd say, maturity for a young player, but his focus. He doesn't get too far ahead of himself, but, he has a good way about him in terms of where he feels he's going and how he's going to get there. We've had a conversation as to what we've done in the off season, where we've created some openings by moving some players, and basically we're wide open to putting him on our team this year if he's ready to play. So I like him as a player. I like him as a person, and I think he's got a real good chance of making our team this year.
David, are you looking at this coming season like more of an immediate opportunity to see what some of the young guys can do? Obviously, Tomasino is one of those, but Cody Glass coming in, Tolvanen could be in various spots. Like, do you look at it like let's from the start see what the young guys can do, or is it just whatever the best lineup is the best lineup and go from there?
I really think that we're going to give these players I don't want to say an extra opportunity, but it's almost like it's their job to lose. When you make decisions to trade a Ryan Ellis or to trade a Victor Arvidsson, there has to be a plan, and the plan was to, for example, to give Tolvanen, as you mentioned his name, or Tomasino a chance to play regular for us. We didn't go out and sign another veteran player, if you will, to replace Arvy. And with Ellis, for example, it's faith that Dante Fabro will rebound to have a strong season, that Alex Carrier will continue to play the strong game that he played, making our team in the second half of the season. So, yes, I guess you'd say there's a big push here right now on a more of a youth movement, or to give our younger players that we feel have the biggest potential, the most upside in the next several years to make our team this year.
Nashville Predators General Manager David Poyle on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And David, obviously a big move yesterday. UC Saros signed to a 4-year, $20 million contract. How important was it for you and for your group to get that done with UC Saros and know that he's going to be your guy for the next few years?
Yeah, obviously really important. Again, it was every negotiation has its different twists and turns or what have you, but I think we arrived at a fair number, and I think we arrived at a fair number of years. Hughes is 26 years of age. Last year was his first year of being the number one goalie. Again, he's had I love his resume, in terms of how we brought him over, played parts of 3 seasons in Milwaukee, has been under the mentorship of Pekka Rinne for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and basically took over for Pekka for sure in the second half of last season, and now it's up to him to see whether he's truly a number one goaltender. I mean, there's a lot of things that Juice still has to prove. I mean, it'll be his first year, obviously, without Pekka. In a normal 82-game schedule, he's going to be called upon to play more games than he's ever played before. You'd certainly like your top goaltender to play 50 to 60 games in an ideal situation. Juice, I believe the most he's played in a year is 42 games. And in addition to that, obviously, we hope we're a playoff team, and we need our number one goalie to be able to be there for us in the playoffs. So a lot to prove on both sides, but I would hope that we'd all agree that based on his resume, what we've seen in Juice's progress, how he played last year, that I'm pretty comfortable that Juice is going to be a really strong goaltender to inherit the number one position from Pekka.
Well, David, you mentioned the mentorship he got from Pekka Rinne. As you project forward, I guess in a perfect world, if it could go how you'd like it to go, would you foresee him being a mentor at some point to Yaroslav Askarov, and sort of those two being the two, and maybe just sorting it out from there, depending on obviously Askarov's development, and of course if Saros can maintain this level of play?
I guess that could happen someday. That's really, to me, looking a little bit too far down the road. That's Joe. That's kind of what I probably always say to you, that my job is to look 3 to 5 years down the road, and Askarov is certainly going to be part of that. Hopefully next year being signed, I would think a normal progression would be to play in Milwaukee for 1 to 2 years at least. I think that, and then maybe be up here at that point in time. If Juice plays out his 4 years, he's 30 years of age. I would think competitively Juice would be, for a goaltender, in the prime of his career. So to your point, yeah, mentorship and tutelage in a 1-2 relationship like that would be fantastic. Again, I don't know how exactly that's going to play out in terms of the competitiveness, how good Juice is going to be at that point in his career, and how good Askarov is. But I hope it's a good problem to have. Let's go stay it that way.
David, you mentioned earlier this offseason that negotiations or I guess conversations with Ekholm and Forsberg in terms of an extension had not yet begun, but also mentioned both those guys have expressed interest in staying in Nashville long term. Is there any update? Have you begun conversations with Ekholm and Forsberg when it comes to contract extensions? Where do those talks kind of stand at this point?
Yeah, now that we're past the UC situation, now we're going to turn our focus now to Ekholm. I actually spoke with his agent yesterday afternoon, and we're going to talk either later this week or next week on that. And then I think shortly before training camp, we'll reach out to Philip Forsberg and his camp and sort of get a lay of the land as where Philip's thoughts are right now. So those are the next two priorities.
Well, how do you feel about those two guys and just how they view where things are going? And I guess, David, how important is sort of the competitive aspect of the term you've used, competitive rebuild? Obviously players who are a little bit later in their careers probably don't look forward to several years of rebuilding. Like how much do you expect that to, I guess, come into the conversations, sort of giving them your vision for the short term?
That's a very important part of the conversation, and they have to believe in the organization and what we're doing and where we're going. And I've certainly had talks, with both of them at the end of the year on a little bit on that. But I think as we get into, say, negotiations, if you will, that those conversations will be, taken up a notch. And I'm going to give my viewpoints and my vision, but I certainly need to see how they see themselves fitting in, because those types of players need to be our best players. They need to be leaders for us, and so they need to be totally bought in, or it's not going to work for them or for us. So it'd be important discussions that hopefully will lead to future contracts with us. That would be the goal.
David, obviously a really important signing to get Mikael Granlund back in the fold for you guys as well. As you kind of look at the moves that have been made this offseason and the opportunities that you've mentioned for some young guys as well, where do you see Granlund kind of factoring into this lineup? He's played at wing and at center to close out last season as well. How do you kind of view where Granlund fits into the mold right now?
I think Granlund ranks right at the top of our forwards in terms of use, contribution, versatility. You can see that in the way that he's being used, not only on a regular line, but on penalty killing and on the power play. So I would think, and if you're rating your forwards simply by ice time, he's probably going to be one of the top 2 or 3 players in terms of the usage. I think, again, he's a good role model in terms of how we want to play as a person, how he carries himself, how he prepares himself. I really feel our players, and especially going back to the beginning of this conversation when we're talking about bringing in more younger players or putting younger players in a more important position, I think Granlund's going to serve as a very important player for us, both on and off the ice. And I would think strongly that he would assume and be put into more of a leadership role than he has been in the last couple of years for us.
David, do you think this can be a playoff team if Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene don't significantly improve their production this year? And then on top of that, would you like to see them get an extended look together next season?
First of all, I think as talking about our team is that's going to be our goal, is to make the playoffs. I know we've made a lot of changes, so that I certainly expect that there's going to be a lot of people that don't feel that we will be, but that will be our goal. I think when you talk about individual players, in this case, in Johansson and Duchene, they are a part of our team. Hopefully they can be a big part of our team, but like any individual, and this is, again, why I think hockey is the greatest team game, is that oftentimes the best players aren't your best players, although you would like them to be. Oftentimes the best players in the league don't end up winning at the end of the day, but winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, Connor McDavid right now is the best player in the league by consensus. They lost out in the first round of the playoffs. The year before, they didn't make the playoffs. So it's a team game. We need everybody to do their part. I'm in addition to Johansson and Duchene, I'm expecting a lot of players to have better seasons. I don't think that's unrealistic in terms of how certain players have played or where they are, presently in their career, especially some of these younger players. So, and then I think the last part of your question, would they play together? I think that's a decision for our coaching staff. I would think that there would be a good chance that they could play together, but you know how it goes during the season, by good play, bad play, injuries, a lot of things get shuffled around. I think Duchene has that versatility of being able to play both center and the wing, and we'll have to see how that all plays out.
Well, David, we certainly appreciate you taking time to join us this morning. Have fun the rest of this offseason and in development camp as well. Looking forward to getting training camp fired back up here in just a few weeks.
Okay, I will. It's exciting. Come out and see us. We've got some good young kids here.
Absolutely. Predators General Manager David Poile, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll come back. We'll react to what David Poile had to say there. Some interesting comments from the Preds General Manager. Take your thoughts as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Go to thegamenashville.com to check out Nashville's best deals. This week's deal is from Joyland in East Nashville. Joyland is a fun new concept by Chef Sean Brock designed to spread joy throughout his love for cheeseburgers, shakes, fries, fried chicken, and buttermilk biscuits. Who doesn't like any of those things?
Sounds good.
Sounds pretty good to me. Get half off a $25 gift card now at thegamenashville.com while they last. I'm all about some cheeseburgers, shakes, fries, fried chicken, and buttermilk biscuits, Joe Rexrode.
Yep.
That's really my language right there.
Those would all be on the list. I tweeted this out the other day, the Southern food list. See this?
Oh, yeah.
It's like 36. I've done 32 of them.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of them, though, were like, is that really Southern? Like jambalaya. How many people haven't had jambalaya?
I'd say jambalaya is Southern.
It's definitely Southern, yeah.
Well, it is, but I'm just saying, like, I think of Southern as not mainstream also. It's like only, like, yes, the best jambalaya you're going to get in New Orleans, but can you get jambalaya in Montana? Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, you can get any food anywhere.
Well, nah. There's some Southern food that in different regions they'd be like, what is that? They would not say that about jambalaya.
I can tell you cannot get sweet tea anywhere. I've tried.
This is true.
That's because
what
sweet
about
tea's
hash brown?
stupid.
What about hash brown casserole?
I'm not speaking the rest of the segment.
All right, I was a little mean
Joe's
to sweet
upset
tea.
me.
It's just a big pile of sugar.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Sweet tea sucks.
Thank you.
All right.
So does unsweet tea.
Robbie's out of here.
See y'all.
So does what?
Unsweet tea.
No, I like iced tea without the sweetener. And
Well.
an Arnold Palmer.
Well said.
On Arnold Palmer is not bad. A little lemonade with the tea, but just sugar in the tea? No.
Ugh.
Ugh.
We're going to switch gears and talk about David Poyle and Nashville Predators now.
There we go.
Thanks to David Poyle for joining us in the last segment. We appreciate that.
Where would David Poyle be on the Southern food?
I'm sure he's had a good amount. He's been here for a long time.
I mean, we were talking yesterday about poutine.
Yeah.
And there's a food item. A lot of people around here be like, huh? What are you talking about? But like in the Midwest.
Can't get poutine too many places around here.
Right. But I mean, that's a regional.
Sure.
Fantastic food. Everybody try poutine. Anyway, David Poyle.
Yes, David Poyle joining us. Did have some news on the Ekholm and Forsberg front. Has had discussion with Ekholm's agent. Going to circle back on that either later this week or next week. So the priority appears to have shifted from UC Saros now to Matthias Ekholm, and said after that, Forsberg, a little bit closer to training camp, get his thoughts from Forsberg's camp to see exactly where he is. Interesting, we've talked about this a lot here on the show. I'd be very surprised at this point if Matthias Ekholm's not back. Stranger things have happened, and look, both of them have a year left on their contract, so they're both going to be back. But I'd be surprised if Ekholm doesn't get signed to an extension. I am curious with Forsberg. Like, how exactly does he view all this? I think your question that you had to Poyle was a good one. Like, how much is the short-term part of this a factor when it comes to some of these guys still in the prime of their careers, still trying to win at a high level? It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out with Ekholm and Forsberg as they move closer to training camp.
Yeah, like, why are you waiting longer for Forsberg?
It's a good question.
Is it just like you feel like Ekholm will be easy and Forsberg may be difficult? I don't know. It's just, I guess, it makes sense to focus on one, then focus on the next, I suppose.
Yeah. That's typically how Poyle does it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, well, I don't retract the question, but that's a fair answer.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing he said was talking about the young guys.
Yeah.
The fact that they've got to be held to this too, because the words youth movement were used a year ago. And then it was like youth movement when injuries happen to veterans. But it sounds to me like the plan is, like he said, every opportunity for a guy like Tomasino, a good situation for a Cody Glass, good situation for a Tolvanen. And that's what they should do. You've got to. If it diminishes you greatly because you should have a couple other guys in there, well, at some point, I understand they're going to try to make playoffs. You're going to try to win, but I feel like the extended, actual from the start look for the young guys is important.
Well, Poyle basically said it's going to be their job to lose. Like, they're going to come in, they're going to be given every opportunity to make this team. Look, we know Tolvanen's going to make the team. He'll be on it. I'd be floored if Cody Glass isn't on the team. I think that's part of the reason you make that trade.
That'd be a shocking
he's on the team.
setback if he isn't.
Right? Really, the question has been, like, is Philip Tomasino ready? And I talked to Philip Tomasino yesterday. He believes that he's ready. He's a confident kid. Said not only is he ready to play in the NHL, but he's ready to make a significant impact at the NHL level as well. So Philip Tomasino, I think, fully believes that he's ready at the NHL level. He did have more than a point per game last year at the American Hockey League. So there's a lot about him that I like. There's a lot about him that a lot of people around the league like as well. The Athletic came out with their top 50 prospects list, which, a lot of that is, Owen Power, just selected number 1 overall in the draft. Quentin Byfield was the number 1 prospect on this list. He's out in L.A. right now, so some higher draft picks on the list. They've got Philip Tomasino at number 29 on this list, and the write-up is, quote, "The more I've watched Tomasino over the years, the fonder I've grown of his game and his upside. He's a breezy skater who threatens off the rush with his ability to fly wide or to burst to the middle to create in transition as both a passer and a finishing threat. His wrister is a mid-range threat. He's got excellent hands, crafty with the puck in tight spaces, and just seems to effortlessly flow within the game, making plays. He could inject the Predators with a much-needed injection of skill." I mean, people are high on Philip Tomasino, and the more I watch him play and the more that I hear coaches and teammates talk about him, I think the Predators could have a really nice piece in Philip Tomasino. And to me, just let the kid play this year. Get him up there, see what you got at the NHL level. And if he's not ready, then you can react after that. But I tend to think Philip Tomasino's ready, and he's going to play at the NHL level this year.
Okay, so devil's advocate, because you certainly hear this from coaches and personnel people at times. You go too hard, too early with someone, and then it just doesn't work out, and they're just not quite ready, physically, mentally, whatever, then you can really damage confidence. Any concern on that?
I mean, there's a concern. I'm a little less worried about it from his standpoint because there's a part of his game that I think is going to allow him to be – there's a baseline of success he'll have anyway, just based on how fast he is. I mean, he's really fast. And when you're that fast – you're going to be able to get to pucks quicker. You're going to be able to create some chances that way just based off purely your foot speed. And he's got incredible foot speed. So that is a thing that he's got. I mean, everybody always, if you're a Predators fan, you ask, well, how does Tomasino compare to a guy like Tolvanen? I mean, I would argue that Tolvanen probably had more hype than Tomasino coming into, this organization here with the Predators.
Oh, yeah.
They're very different in the way they play. Tomasino, he does not have the shot that Tolvanen has. He is more NHL ready at pretty much everything else than Tolvanen was besides the shot. And quite frankly, he's just got foot speed that Tolvanen doesn't have at this point.
Would they complement each other at some point?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they would. Yeah, and that's another thing you got to figure out if you're the Predators. Is Tomasino going to play down the middle, which is where he was drafted? Or is he going to play on the wing, which is basically where he's been playing the last couple of years? He spent a lot of time on the wing. It kind of feels like he's turning into a winger, which it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when he was a center when he got drafted. So where is he going to fit in at the NHL level? My guess is on the wing, but that's an interesting question for John Hines and the staff to kind of figure out there.
Well, and just the whole, in the immediate, just this picture with Granlund, which you asked about, and Cody Glass, who's down the middle, who's on the wing, who's with who. It's going to be really interesting.
Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam from Portland texting in. I still can't understand not re-signing Eric Halla. He brought a nastiness to our team that I don't see on the roster right now. It makes no sense to me. Well, I think I think
it goes along with what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's about the young guys. I think that's why he's not back. Is they're opening up spots for young guys to come in and contribute. Now, you say that, and then somebody's responsibility, okay, well, why are you signing Mikhail Granlund if you're opening up spots for young guys? And I get that. I think the difference is Granlund was probably their most important forward last year. And, if the usage is the same, which I think it will be, he could be their most important forward this year too.
I mean, for this coaching staff, Granlund it's absolutely essential, right?
Yep.
To have him in the lineup. And I agree on Halla. I really like how Halla played late. I like how he played in the playoff series. But that's why you can't have a youth movement if you keep signing guys like that. and you're trying to find a higher level with people with bigger upside who get opportunities to take you to a better place. That sounded like a movie poster, but you know what I'm saying. Take us to a better place, Cody Glass.
That's right. JC in Goodlettsville texting in. After the Saros deal and then Ekholm, do we have cap room for Forsberg if we don't move Johansson or Duchesne's contract?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Especially now with Ryan Ellis gone. Obviously, Pekarine's contract off the books as well. Victor Arvidsson's contract off the books. You do have Granlund back. It's not like you've got all the room in the world to operate with, but Ekholm and Forsberg you'll have room for, should they decide to sign. Now, the question to that is, all right, how far are you willing to go with Forsberg? Because I can see it a couple different ways. Like, I don't think Philip Forsberg is worth the $8 million that he's probably going to get, just based on simply production. Like, I think he's a uber talented player, but production-wise, I don't think he's an $8 million player. Now, the counter argument to that, if you're Philip Forsberg, is going to be you're paying Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson $8 million, and you think I'm going to take a cent less than that? Are you crazy? That's going to be an interesting spot to figure out.
Well, he plays a different position, too. How much does that factor into the fact that some of these other goal-scoring wingers, like a Taylor Hall this year, in free agency, didn't really break the bank like some centers did?
Yep. Although Duchene no longer
playing.
Yeah.
Yes. He was signed as a center, but yes.
He was. No, it's certainly a factor. I mean, the centers, that's where the big money is. I don't think there's any question about that.
And I think so much of the answer is, what does Forsberg think is going to happen with this franchise in the next few years? Because I think you could see a scenario where he wouldn't push it all the way, like I absolutely must be paid at least as much as those guys, but only if he feels good about where things are going. And he may not. And he may have reason to not.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating to see how that plays out with Ekholm and Forsberg and the Predators as well as we get closer to training camp. When we come back, we'll get back into the Titans, get Joe's thoughts on practice yesterday, including some news on Josh Reynolds as the Titans head down to Tampa Bay. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
the Achilles in, or do you over a hump? Is it full go 100%? Are you still having some?
Still kind of working through some stuff, but like I said, today I felt good. Today was, everything was kind of clicking with my body. I was kind of trying to figure out a routine to kind of get stuff figured out down there. As you get older, it gets a little harder to just go out there and run.
That was Titans wide receiver Josh Reynolds yesterday.
Yeah, the 26-year-old in perfect shape with 0% body fat. Getting older.
But he's right though. As you get older, it's harder to run and to be explosive that way.
Yeah.
So at 26, he's already feeling it.
I mean, I will say this league will make you 40 real fast. I'm sure.
Yes, it will.
I'm about to turn 32, and I haven't run in a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not true. I've seen Porth bust it down the baseline in a softball game.
This is true.
Just bust it.
And I probably pulled my hammy that night.
I think that may have happened.
You've got softball tonight, right?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Okay.
Another charity league softball game. So getting after it.
And Big Joe will be with you?
Big Joe's going to be there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be something.
Now, talk about a supreme athlete.
Oh, yes.
Still in the prime of his athleticism. Amazing specimen, that Joe Dubin.
That's right. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it. Josh Reynolds talking yesterday, feeling better at Titans practice. Did say that an Achilles issue has been bothering him, and I think you and I have deduced that it may be an Achilles strain on that part. Obviously not a tear. Well, we're not talking about Josh Reynolds right now because he's not a part of things with the Achilles being that way. But looked better towards the end of practice. What were your thoughts on Josh Reynolds, his injury situation that he's been battling through, and how did he look yesterday out there on the field of practice at Nissan Stadium in front of some Titans fans, by the way, on the field yesterday at Nissan Stadium?
Yeah, just about 7,000 people out there. It was a good scene. Put on a good show for the fans after the slow start when I thought Vrabel was going to troll all of us. But it ended up being a good, nice practice. And look, that's the best Josh Reynolds has looked here. I mean, those are the biggest plays he's made, the biggest play he's made, and the fastest he's looked. So, I mean, maybe, you just turn the lights on a little bit, put some fans out there. That makes a difference. But
yeah,
I think realistically it's when you got quote-unquote Achilles stuff, that can't be fun.
Caught my eye, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things you rarely hear, Like you just rarely hear about, just a little Achilles tweak, I sprained my Achilles. Now, you can have an Achilles strain, and actually I've had Achilles pain, but at my age, like someone who gets gout, there's all kinds of issues that I encounter, okay? But I mean, it was interesting to hear that, and it doesn't sound great, but then you watch him run yesterday, and it was actually a really good matchup with him and Christian Fulton, who was hurt the day before, by the way. Yep. Good to see him back out there. It was a speed matchup. Reynolds and Fulton down the field, perfect pass from Tannehill, great catch by Reynolds. He did drop a pass early that would have been a big play earlier in one of the team drills. I don't remember if it was 7-on-7 or 11-on-11, but he made a couple other plays, and I think the Josh Reynolds, Marcus Johnson, I think that's a battle too. You can pair up, like David Beauclair said earlier, pair up these receivers sort of, you're like Cam Batson, Chester Rogers, punt returner guy, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Racing McMath, special teams core guy, and Marcus Johnson, Josh Reynolds might be number 3 receiver guy. I mean, I think both of them could catch passes this year and matter in the offense.
Yeah, I think both going to make the team.
Oh, definitely.
But
yeah, I mean, with Reynolds, I mean, we talked about, we batted around last week, right? Because he hasn't done anything. But it doesn't take much to see it and say, yeah, I mean, he's going to be on the team.
Yeah, I would think so. Good to see him back on the field yesterday. That's the thing. With him, he still is young, and he's played 16 games every year of his career so far. He's not missed a game since he's come into the league. So durability to this point has not really been a problem with Josh Reynolds. Now, it's the NFL, and that can change very quickly. We know that. But he's never missed a game. So I don't think you come into the season all that worried about Josh Reynolds from a durability standpoint.
Right. Now, again, you do get older. You do. I will say one thing about Josh Reynolds. I mean, he is slight. He is so skinny. Like, you look at him, and you wouldn't think that'd be a guy who has the durability to play every game in this league. But obviously he does. But still, you go a few years, you get a shoulder, you get a surgery, now you get whatever happened with the Achilles. Things can start to accumulate on you quickly in this league. But that was definitely an encouraging sight yesterday. I mean, he and Chester Rogers were the standouts of the scrimmage. And Tannehill, looked like Tannehill throwing the ball around, although he did have a pick from Kevin Byard. And Laurel Murchison actually had 2, by my count, PBUs at the line with nice length. Another depth guy who's been playing well in camp.
Worried about Tannehill's height? 6'4", 6'5", not tall enough?
Well, maybe. He's not the tallest quarterback in the league. So, so many things we can nitpick. That is a good question.
Yeah, one time it was Brock Osweiler. Is he still in the league?
Oh, good Lord. Remember when there was so much excitement about him in Houston? Paxton Lynch was like 6'8",
Oh,
right?
yeah, he was huge.
He's not around.
Broncos have run through some tall quarterbacks.
They have, haven't they? But it probably is still. Roethlisberger is like a legit 6'6", right?
I think so.
Probably him.
Probably it's 6'5" for Roethlisberger.
Oh, is that right?
6'5".
There's probably someone. How tall is Justin Herbert?
Let's see here.
I know that there's a way to figure this out. There's got to be
Justin Herbert is 6'6", so taller than Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
Maybe that's why there's so much hype on Herbert. Big guy. I guess I didn't realize he was that tall.
He's good.
He's good.
Oh, he's a Hall of Famer already. Get
he's
that
right there with Brady.
That gold jacket.
Tannehill's 6'4", so got some work to do on that front.
This reminds me, I forgot about Dan McGuire. You guys remember Dan McGuire? There's no way you remember Dan McGuire.
I don't.
Mark McGuire's brother, San Diego State, didn't quite work out in the NFL, but 6'8", quarterback in the NFL.
Okay, all right.
The more you know.
Yep. All right.
It used to be if you were under 6 foot, you're not playing quarterback in this league. It's not really the case anymore.
Yep.
Guys like Russell Wilson have they've changed the narrative on that. Drew Brees,
Wilson, Kyler Murray.
Yep.
And how tall is Tua? I mean, Tua's not super tall, right?
He's 6'1".
Okay, so it's fine. But even that, like 6'1" would be held against you 20 years ago.
Yeah.
6'1's held against you. Not anymore.
How tall is Flacco?
Well, this has Mariota listed at 6'4". Is Mariota 6'4"?
He's always been listed at
6'6".
Yeah, Flacco's big. There you go.
Elite.
So we found a good attribute for Joe Flacco.
I mean, Super Bowl champion Joe Flacco.
You got it.
Where is he now?
He's Philly.
That's right.
He's Jalen Hurts' backup.
Yeah.
Philly.
That's
well,
right.
hopefully Jalen doesn't get hurt so that Eagles fans don't have to watch Flacco.
I'm so glad you got that.
I didn't know where
joke
that was
in
going.
today.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you got a chance to make that fun joke.
Chris texting in on the text line, driven by Wilson County.
Way to squeeze one out, Ryan! Yay!
Chris says, ketchup on hot dogs and brats reduces gout. That's Joe's problem. This is likely 0% accurate.
Oh, my God. Who said that?
Chris.
Maybe that's been the secret all along. Trust me, brats in any form don't help gout.
Ketchup or otherwise.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the Titans. Taking more of your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee.
What's a jam? I need to get that. Where can I get that on 8-track?
An 8-track, huh? That's the way you're going about it? I like it.
What year is that song?
Probably 78.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say. Like
Probably.
Do you know the song?
I know.
It's your request from yesterday.
Yeah, it's Smoky Mountain Rain.
Day late and dollar short.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm also clueless on that. When I heard all these people going nuts about it, I'm like, oh, I'm sure I know it then. But no,
that wasn't the chorus. Came out in 1980.
The chorus
came out in 1980.
Okay.
So 78 was a good guess, actually. Pretty close.
Yeah, good guess. Yeah.
Shout out to Ronnie Millsap.
I mean, I know some Ronnie Millsap. Play the chorus.
Jared Cassidy in here says that you haven't lived very much if you haven't heard that song before.
Well, I probably have, but you didn't play the chorus. I mean,
I'll play the chorus as we go out.
It sounded like a song that I want to go earmuffs hard to, but, you know, I mean, you got to give me the chorus.
Oh, boy. By the way, make sure you're tuning in tonight for Nashville Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9 as the Sounds begin a 6-game road trip against Memphis, the AAA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. Big rivalry between Nashville and Memphis in more ways than just baseball.
They're going the opposite way from the Smoky Mountains.
That is correct. You're driving away from the Smoky Mountains at that point. Pre-game show with Jeff Hem starts at 6:55.
And hopefully there's no rain tonight.
It's at 7:10. Nashville Sounds Baseball presented by 312 Pizza Company and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Keith on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lynn Dickey was 6'3" at quarterback. A lot of Lynn Dickey love on the show the last couple of days.
On my tombstone, it'll have like Lynn Dickey. If only he could have thrown to Nick Westbrook-Akina, it could have been the greatest
player of all time.
NFL connection ever. And what if Dan Fouts was also there?
How tall was Dan Fouts?
Oh, Dan Fouts is a big guy. I bet you Dan Fouts is a solid 6'6". I'm going to look that up. I'll be surprised if Dan Fouts.
He's 6'3".
Really? Didn't keep him out of the Hall of Fame. Just larger than life to me.
Really?
Dan Fouts is like Paul Bunyan with a football when I was a kid.
Oh, Dan Fouts is a big guy. I'd be surprised if he went 6'6". 6'3".
We need to get
6'3".
We need to get Dan Fouts back on the show so I can fanboy out a little bit.
It's friend of the show, Dan Fouts.
Friend of the show, Dan Fouts. A little bit weirded out by me, Dan Fouts.
I wonder if he has gout too.
God, I hope not.
Chances are, man. I'm just saying, like he's 70, you know.
Brady's only 6'4". It's amazing he's been able to do what he's done. 6'4".
Is that right? It's actually taller than I thought he was.
How tall do you think he was?
I thought he was like 5'6", just some magician out there.
Brady just running under the line of scrimmage. Yep. That's why he's so good at the quarterback sneak.
Is he taller than an Ewok?
I mean, he's essentially the new age. Yeah, he's essentially the new age Doug Flutie. You know, basically like the modern day Doug Flutie.
Yeah.
Or so I thought, but I was wrong.
Doug Flutie's listed at 5'10". Do we believe that?
No.
I thought Doug Flutie was about 5'6".
I thought he was like 5'8".
Yeah.
He was fun to watch, man. He was
slinging that thing all over.
He could ball. I mean, he was one of the. I mean, back then too, as we talked about, like the shorter quarterback now gets more of an opportunity, but back then, laughable.
Was it
Flutie?
Doug
6'11" Dan Fouts out slinging it. You know, there's no room for a Doug Flutie in your league.
Was Doug Flutie the one that drop kicked the extra point late in his career? Didn't they bring him in there to do a drop kick?
That sounds right.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
A lost art in the game of football. Not many drop kicks anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have a better chance of making one of those than off the hold. You know.
That seems like it's more complicated. The drop kick?
Well, there's no – yeah. I mean, the chance isn't good either way, but I just feel like I don't know. If anybody's tried to place kick, it's not easy.
It's not easy. No, it's not. Joe, Titans traveling down today to Tampa Bay. They'll be practicing tomorrow and Thursday against the Bucs. It'll be hot out there. It's going to be about 95 the next couple of days in Tampa Bay, and then the game coming up this weekend. What are we looking for this week at practice? For the Titans against the Buccaneers, do you think there's any chance we could see Julio Jones on the field this week down in Tampa Bay?
A chance, but I think I would, if I had to guess, I'd guess no. Not that there's anything when he's walking around, jogging around. Doesn't seem like there's anything really that's a problem. But I just kind of guess. I would think next week, the week after for him. But I could be wrong. I mean, I think it's you look at the players on this team who can in individual drills, who can get some really good work. And I think of defensive backs and I think of offensive linemen, especially young defensive back. Christian Fulton and if Molden's out there and Farley against those receivers, and then obviously you got some great pass rushers, Dylan Radunz trying to continue the progress, things like that. I mean, those would be some good sessions. And, I mean, if the Patriots visit here a few years ago is any indication, Tom Brady will be a nice challenge for this Titans defense.
Yeah.
He's pretty good, at least as a practice player.
Yes, I'm sure that he is. Good test, though, for the Titans secondary, going up against Godwin, Evans, that receiving core out in Tampa Bay. It'll be good work for Christian Fulton this week, going up against some of those guys. Vrabel talked about that a little bit yesterday. Obviously, some very good players that Tampa Bay has. I'm interested to see how he does in particular this week, Fulton, going up against those guys.
Big time. I mean, I think that you saw how much he played Friday. Like, he's one of those guys, important but needs the work. That's clearly how they look at him. And so I think he'll play a lot Saturday, and he'll get a lot of work this week. Is Gronk practicing right now?
I don't know.
But there's a guy that's tough to deal with.
Yeah.
Linebackers or safeties dealing with a Gronk. I mean, you win a Super Bowl, you got some good players.
Turns out. And you bring everybody back from the Super Bowl, too.
Did something make you laugh on the text line?
Yeah, Tim from Lewisburg texting in. Peyton Manning is 6'5", with most of that being in his forehead. There were a lot of comments on the Hall of Fame bust from Peyton Manning. The forehead kind of got sized down a little bit, it looked like.
Yeah, that was a little bit strange-looking bust, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
The autocorrect on the text said Peyton Manning.
Yeah, there was that.
Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning. Seth confirming that Doug Flutie did do the drop kick, the first drop kick in like 60 years with the Patriots.
That's awesome.
What a moment it was.
That guy was so great. I wish you guys were old enough to remember Doug Flutie and enjoy watching him.
I've seen the Hail Mary
New Jersey Generals.
Yeah.
I told you that I watched Herschel Walker play for the New Jersey Generals, right?
Oh, yeah. You said that, yeah. Well, last year we had the Hail Mary discussion with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Like, was that the greatest Hail Mary we've ever seen? Rodgers has had a few. Doug Flutie's was pretty nice, the Hail Mary at Boston College.
4-4 BC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's probably the most famous one, right?
Probably so.
I mean, it's probably the one I've seen the most in my life. Wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah.
Elijah's in here. I'm looking for some nods or most watched Hail Mary. He's not listening.
Although going back and watching the Kyler Murray and a couple that Aaron Rodgers has had, like fadeaway throws, pretty freaking epic.
I mean, hey, got to see the one here in Athens a few years ago in person. That was pretty solid. That was almost just like just throwing a fade, like you just knew he was going to get the ball.
Butch Jones in tears on the field after.
My coaching led
Little
us
did
to
we
this
know
victory.
That we'd all be in tears later.
That was such a brutal job of coaching by him in that game.
It was awful.
Oh,
so bad.
Joanne Jennings.
Do miss Uncle Vern. Do miss Uncle Vern on the call.
Yeah, he was great.
Dennis texting in. The Titans lose the Music City Miracle game if Flutie starts. So Dennis saying Titans dodged bullet if Doug Flutie starts.
I kind of agree with that.
That's right. Rob Johnson and Doug Flutie were the two quarterbacks. Yep. Man, I forgot about the fact that Flutie was he may be right. Flutie just made stuff happen. Sometimes really bad, dumb stuff, but he made stuff happen.
Yeah. Could have changed the course of Titans history if Doug Flutie's in there. We'll never know.
So much to ponder.
So much to ponder for sure.
As we wait for the show to end.
Well, you're heading out to Tampa Bay this weekend for the game. You will not be there for practice, but Jared Stillman will be there for practice.
We got the whole thing covered. Jared doing the first shift. I'm doing the second shift.
That is correct. So lots of Titans Buccaneers coverage coming your way this week. I'll keep you updated on Predators development camp as well. Day 2 of development camp today. They'll have the Future Stars game coming up on Thursday at Fordyce Center in Bellevue. So a busy week for the local professional sports teams here in Nashville. That does it for us here today. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Darren Donica Chase is coming up next. You're listening to ESPN 102.5 The Game.